September, and you're very welcome along to another edition of the 9 till noon show. In fact, it's another week of the 9 till noon show, and we hope we'll keep you informed and entertained over the next 3 hours. We want you involved in the conversation throughout, of course. We've plenty lined up, and maybe something occurred over the weekend, or something you want to talk about, or an issue you want to raise. The lines are open for you right now. WhatsApps and texts to 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000. You can give us a call either on 07491 25,000. If you want to email the show, it's comments@highlandradio.com, and feel free to email if you're listening to the podcast, which is live on our website at 12:30 each day, or if you're listening overnight. It's always good to hear your views too. And you can watch the show as well. We're streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and on the X platform. Right, a little later on, coming up in the show, we'll have John and Paddy back on, entering the penultimate week, I suppose, of the general election campaign. We'll get their views, an overview of what's happening nationally and locally. We want you involved in that as well, so feel free to message in. But first, let's look at the newspapers, and we'll start with the Dairy People Donegal News this morning. And up to 80 Ukrainian refugees living in Ramelton are facing eviction in the month, or in the mouth of Christmas, as the Department of Equality and Integration continue to end contracts with smaller accommodation providers throughout the county. The refugees living in Oakwell Holiday Village and the Tanyard premises in Ramelton received letters last week asking them to vacate their accommodation by December 11th. The news has been met with uproar from some members of the local community. One local business owner said to move Ukrainian families from their homes before Christmas is inhumane. Just a few months ago, Ukrainian refugees staying in the Mulroy Woods Hotel, Church Road, and the Old National Irish Bank premises in Milford also received eviction letters. And of course, it is desperate for these families, but also, of course, it has a knock-on effect as well too, because these people need to find accommodation. There is limited accommodation, but the Ukrainian families are at a slight advantage, it would seem, in the open rental market, given the fact that people can accommodate them and receive €800 a month tax free versus the tax implications for renting to non-Ukrainian families. So it is very upsetting for those families being asked to leave that accommodation at such notice and at this time of year, but also it does have ramifications elsewhere as well. The Derry News this morning: concerns have been raised over the potential closure of Derry's General Post Office. More than 100 post office branches, including Derry's Custom House branch, could close under a major overhaul announced last week. The post office revealed it is looking to offload around 115 directly owned branches within its 11,500 strong network, which could see them transferred to retail partners or postmasters, or potentially closed. And we've seen a lot of that in the Republic as well, haven't we? On to the Nationals and its election coverage everywhere. Fianna Fáil has again attacked its coalition partners' policies, with Deputy Leader Jack Chambers claiming Fine Gael's manifesto threatens new recruitment in healthcare and public sector pay freeze. This is The Independent. Fianna Fáil leader Micheál Martin called for a ceasefire last week after several days of campaigning in which the government parties took swipes at each other on issues such as justice and drug decriminalisation. And it's an interesting one in that there are those who believe that the more logical thing would be them to sort of target Sinn Féin, I suppose, rather than going at each other's necks. But maybe they feel at this point they're kind of competing for the same pool of voters. I don't know. But now two ministers who just last month delivered Budget 2025 together have clashed over funding. Fine Gael launched its election manifesto yesterday. It set out a number of measures, including €1,000 for new babies, which would be put into a savings account in their name. Just hours after the launch, Finance Minister Mr Chambers criticised the Fine Gael manifesto, which he said had been published very late and raised some very serious problems that needed to be explained. You heard referenced in the news, and it is a difficult one for Fine Gael, and it's certainly going to be a difficult one for Simon Harris in tonight's debate. Helen McEntee, this is the Irish Daily Mail, Helen McEntee has said she stands over her party's decision to run Senator John McGahon on the Fine Gael ticket after he was found 65% civilly liable for assault. The Justice Minister made her remarks on RTE Radio 1's This Week following publication of a newspaper interview with the alleged victim, Breen White. Senator McGahon, 33, was found not guilty of assault in a criminal case 2 years ago, but in a High Court action this year, a jury found him 65% civilly liable. Mr. White, 55, who was awarded €39,000 in damages against the Louth candidate, was astonished the party had selected the senator for 4 separate election campaigns. He furnished photos of his 2018 injuries to the Sunday Times, and if you did see those images, they are pretty shocking. But anyway, bottom line is whether or not this person should be running or not, the fact that it's going to be a topic for tonight's debate is problematic for Fine Gael. On to the Irish Times now, and it could be troubling, this, not just for Ukraine, Russia, but beyond. The White House has given Ukraine permission to fire US-supplied long-range ballistic missiles at targets inside Russia, this for the first time, as Kyiv's forces in the Kursk border region battle Russian units supported by troops sent from North Korea, which is perhaps one of the aggravating factors for the American decision. 10,000 North Korean soldiers are taking part in the conflict. So it's not Russia versus Ukraine. Perhaps some would say it was never Russia versus just Ukraine, but now it's Russia versus Russia and North Korea versus Ukraine and its backers. US President Joe Biden approved Ukraine's use of these missiles, which have a range of about 300 kilometers, 2 months before he leaves office, and after resisting pressure on the issue from Kyiv for much of 24 US media outlets reported. It is problematic, but I'll tell you what is also a problem. Russia has missiles that aren't tactical like the ones that have been used so far. What I'm saying is, and this is not to mitigate the loss of life or what have you, is they have weapons in their arsenal that could flatten Kyiv. And many would say, well, I haven't used them yet, because that's just not really the rules of war, is it, at this time? But they have very significant weapons, and I wouldn't be surprised if they opted to use them now inside of Ukraine. Terrible situation ongoing over there, still making the headlines, still leading the news. But every single day, more and more women and children are wiped off the face of the planet in Gaza, and for some reason it's not in the news any longer. Certainly not to the same extent that the Russia-Ukraine conflict is, but on it goes. Pope Francis has intervened, I suppose, verbally. Pope Francis has called for an investigation to determine if Israel's attacks in Gaza constitute genocide, according to excerpts released from an upcoming new book ahead of the Pontiff's Jubilee year. It's the first time Francis has openly urged for an investigation of genocide allegations over Israel's actions. In September, he says Israel's attacks in Gaza and Lebanon have been immoral and disproportionate, and that its military has gone beyond the rules of war. The book by Herman Reis Al-Qaedi, and based on interviews with the Pope, will be released tomorrow. But as I say, every day there are more bombs dropping. 10 people killed here, 20 people there, 50 elsewhere, and it's just not making the headlines any longer. We'll go to the Sun now, and Guardia probing if child benefit was paid for Kyran Dernan, even though he hadn't been seen alive for 2 years. Guardia want to know if payments were made and collected for the murdered child. He would be 8. I'm not sure he ever reached 8, sadly. He would have been 6 2 years ago. The 8-year-old was last seen at a Dundalk primary school at the end of May in 2022. A Garda source said, "We're in contact with the Department of Social Protection to find out if child benefit was paid for Kyran, and if so, how much," which is an interesting angle for them to investigate. All right, something completely different, of course. We'll go to the world of sport, and 60 million people, it was actually 50 million people, watched Katie Taylor in action at the weekend, and she won. She's still the unified champion. 60 million watched the joke of a fight between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. But anyway, she received the biggest payday of her career, and I was going to say cemented her legacy, but her legacy is there for all to see. But we read on here in the Irish Daily Mirror, Katie Taylor will return home to reflect on her latest incredible success, but she does have a tough question to address very soon. What next? Now, I think the majority of people out there would like to see her retire now as an undefeated champion with a amazing professional and amateur boxing record, and her name in the history books forever as being the leading light, really, in bringing women's boxing to where it is now. Some people still don't like it, but still it is a massive sport at the moment. So she won the fight. I believe she won the fight. Very surprised that so many people believe that she didn't. But anyway, I believe that she won the fight, and she's the unified champion. And what's next? There's talk of her fighting Serrano for a third time over 12 rounds, 12 3-minute rounds, which I don't think would be very favourable to Katie at her age. But anyway, what next? The 38-year-old did everything she said she would do to beat Amanda Serrano for a second time in front of a sea of Stetson hats on Friday night at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. But it wasn't just grit, heart and toughness that got Taylor the win and helped save the pathetic main event of Jake Paul lumbering to victory over Mike Tyson. She showed her boxing brilliance once again to deliver a pulsating performance that cemented her place as a true great in front of 72,000 spectators. Now, she believes that she still has a couple of fights left in her, but who, where, why? What do you think? 086 60 25,000. That is the number to comment on that matter or anything else that you heard in that run through of the newspapers, or anything else, in fact, that you want to talk about. The number is there for you to use, or you can call us at 074 91 25,000.
Daily newspapers are courtesy of Cosgrove, Centra and Diner, Mountaintop, Letterkenny. The Noddy Alarm Clock, proudly sponsored by the newly renovated Kearnan's Diner, Newton Cunningham. Famous for our trucker stock breakfast, not forgetting our most talked about traditional fish and chips with freshly battered haddock served with fresh chips, peas and a garnish of salad.
Buying or moving home can be a strange mixture of excitement and stress. So the last thing you need is worrying about conveyancing. Time to call McElhenney and Associates. They'll move that property transaction along swiftly, make sure everything's in order and prevent any nasty surprises. Residential, commercial, leasing or voluntary transfer. Call today on 074 917 5989 or find us online. We'll do the paperwork, you do the wallpaper. McElhenney and Associates Solicitors, Stranorlar. How can we help?
As your bump gets bigger, sleeping on your side helps keep your baby safe. It's okay if you wake up on your back at night, just turn on to your side again. Visit mychild.ie for advice on pregnancy, baby and toddler health.
Thinking of getting a new car in 2025? Why not get one in 2026 as well? Buy a selected 251 Nissan and we'll replace it with a 261 Nissan for free. For details about this and all our 251 offers, contact your local Nissan dealer or visit nissan.ie. Nissan. Defy ordinary. Terms and conditions apply.
I've just had the Eclipse Cinemas experience. Wow, they truly have taken a night at the movies to a whole new level. Amazing recliner chairs, director's lounge VIP rooms, pizza and hot food served to your seat. Have a glass of wine and enjoy the film on the big screen. Try it for yourself at Eclipse Cinemas Bundoran and Lifford Strabane, where the stars shine brighter. By the way, the pizzas are amazing. You can book your seat anytime at eclipsecinemas.ie.
Celebrate Christmas in style at the Clanry Hotel, Letterkenny. Join us for unforgettable party nights. Friday, December 13th with the Cufflinks Band. Saturday, December 14th with David James and his band. And Saturday, December 21st with Red Alert Band. Enjoy mulled wine on arrival, a festive 4-course dinner and a live DJ for only €49 per person. Book now by calling the Clanry Hotel on 074 9124369 or email sales@clanryhotel.com.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is...
It's approaching 20 minutes past 9. As you would know, we've covered it on this show, but sure, it's a live reality for people out there. There's been a whole host of driving tests cancelled at short notice. I think there was 27 at least last week. We do know also we only have 4 testers in the whole of the county, and they have to cover 3 centres, 3 based in Letterkenny, 1 in Donegal Town, and Buncrana is covered by the 3 and 1 in the rest of the county. And we're a big sprawling county with thousands of people waiting for their tests, and it seems that if someone's unavailable for work for whatever reason, we're not necessarily blaming testers, there's no cover, and it has a huge impact on people. And we're going to learn how that can be the case. Sean Boyle from Annagry joins us now. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, how you doing?
I'm all right, Sean. Right, so you have... How long have you been waiting for your test?
So I did all my lessons. I started driving, doing lessons in January, and was only able to get my test booked at the end of May, and then I only got the invitation to book it like 3 weeks ago.
Right, so June, July, August, September, October, and it was in October then. You didn't actually do too bad compared to some. You still had to wait 4.5 months, which is way too long. But you got your invite to apply for a test, and you got a date then in November.
Yeah, so I got the date. That was fine. Doing all my lessons, like I spent a lot of money then on the lessons just weeks beforehand. Booked my driving instructor then the morning before the test, and then I got the text from the RSA then just the night beforehand that they cancelled on me.
And what does that text say? Does it say we'll reschedule as soon as we can? Does it give you any information, or does it just say the test is cancelled?
It told me the test was cancelled and that they'll put me in on the waiting list again. It didn't really tell me exactly how long I'll be waiting, if I'll be waiting a few weeks, few months again. And it's just kind of really annoying me at this point.
Yeah, of course it is, because you just don't know. How important is it for you to get on the road, Sean? Obviously for independence, and everyone wants to do it, but also obviously given where we live, there's practical reasons for needing access to a car to be able to drive without relying on others.
Of course, yeah. I'm a bartender in a hotel in Dunlow, so whenever I'll be working late shifts, I can't always be relying on my family members to give me lifts at like 2 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning. So it's things like that where whenever you're meant to be working, you can't just rely on everyone else whenever you're meant to have a license.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. So how long is it? It could be 6 to 8 weeks now. So you could be well into January before you even get an opportunity now to sit your test.
Yeah, exactly. It's like one of those things. As well, like it's bad in the driving tester. Like I booked 2 slots before my test, which is eating into his time, and then I cancelled obviously the night before. So he really can't make the money there now, because he's in a situation where no one's going to be able to fill that slot at such short notice.
And the problem we're having, Sean, is getting answers to the obvious questions that you have had. You know, like, in other words, why is this happening? When am I going to get a new test? Could the next test, once it's booked, could that be cancelled as well? Are you going to spend, and hopefully you'd pass first time, Sean, and I don't see why you wouldn't. But I mean, like, you've got to build yourself up to that again. Like, it's just really, really unfair.
Oh, of course. Like, the fact is they even didn't give a proper answer. They just said due to unforeseen circumstances. Like, I know a friend as well. She last week got her test cancelled due to the same reason, and still doesn't have any answers either. Like, it's, I don't know how many people this happened to.
Are you more likely? You're in Letterkenny. You've booked yours for Letterkenny, of course.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So you had to arrange to get over to Letterkenny from Annagry as well, and had to cancel that lift, I presume. Yeah,
of course. Like, it's one of those things as well. Like, I asked a family member to give me a lift at a certain time. They have to, if they're working, have to book time off to work, and it's just kind of just a chain reaction of different kind of inconveniences with everyone.
Yeah. All right, Sean. Listen, thanks for helping us understand the terrible inconvenience and disappointment as well. We appreciate it. We're trying to get some clarity. What cover can be put in place, should be put in place. It's very hard, It's very hard to get the information in this area, which is crazy, from the RSA. But we're going to continue to see if we can get some resolution to this. Sean, thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you very much. Right. Nice talking to you.
Bye-bye. Take care. Hi, Greg. Your friend in the White House, Joe Biden, is no friend of mine, is letting long-range missiles to be fired into Russia. You support Kamala. We have receipts. Trump is talking peace. You won't say this on your show. Well, why wouldn't I say it on your show? I've said quite clearly throughout the whole election, and anyone who listens and would have heard me say, like, I didn't know which is best. And I actually even said at the time, I'm not terribly interested in the internal politics of the United States. It doesn't really bother me. This is exactly what I said. But I didn't know if if Donald Trump is good for world peace or Irish jobs. Sorry to be a wee bit parochial on that. Or if Kamala Harris was good for world peace or Irish jobs. Simply didn't know. So that was quite literally what I said in relation to that. And I'm none the wiser still. And if I don't know something, I'm more than happy to put my hands up and say that. Hi, Greg. I would really love to hear a debate concerning political promises politicians make during canvassing, yet they're not held to account when elected, when not delivered or implemented. Why are we accepting a political system that allows many empty promises just to get elected? Consumers would not accept goods or services that do not perform as expected or promised, so why are we tolerating this behaviour from politicians? In terms of our hospital in Letterkenny, we really need to get behind the GPs and consultants who are pushing the politicians to focus on improving the hospital. They need to be held to account to deal with the needs of the hospital. I'd love to hear this topic on your show. It's a perennial conversation, isn't it? Undelivered promises. Anyone who wants to discuss that or have a say in it, you're more than welcome to get in touch with us. Don't worry about that. Right, Pádraig Curley is ASDI Vice President and a Donegal school teacher. He's with me now. Good morning, Pádraig.
Hello, Greg. How are you doing? Nice to be with you.
I'm doing all right. Thanks for joining us. Right, local members of the STI and TUI, they're joining nationwide lunchtime protests outside schools next Tuesday. Is that tomorrow or next Tuesday?
That's tomorrow, Greg.
Tomorrow, okay,
yeah, teachers are having a protest outside the school tomorrow at lunchtime, during their lunchtime.
Right, what's it about?
Okay, so the first thing is that there's Leaving Cert reform, and the protest is to get media coverage like what you're doing now. We want to highlight to parents and to the public at large the serious changes that are coming down the road for the Leaving Cert, and it's happening at a very, very quick rate. So, for example, new courses for the three sciences, biology, physics and chemistry and business studies will be starting in September of next year. And they'll be assessed for the first time in 2027. So it's happening very, very fast. And just to tell your listeners, the main changes is that what the Department of Education through the NCCA and the Minister wants is one written paper worth 60%. And then a project worth 40%, and that is in absolutely every subject. So it's important for me to say that the teachers' unions, the ASTI particularly and the TUI, we are absolutely not opposed to Leaving Cert reform or redevelopment, quite the opposite. But what we really want to do is to make sure we get it right.
Yeah. Now, I know there are concerns.
This new course will be going for another 20 years, so it needs to be right.
Of course. Now, I know you have concerns as it relates to pressures on students. We'll get to that in a moment. But in terms of the implementation in schools and what it means for teachers, are there concerns there?
Oh, there's huge concerns. This is the main thrust of the reason we're calling on it to be postponed, to be delayed, because it's clearly not ready. So, for example, if you look at the sciences, biology, for example, which is a huge subject with an awful lot of students picking that subject, we're going to have things like laboratory experiments and tests for this 40%, which is a lot of marks for a project. Yet, we can see that the resources are not anywhere near in place for it. Some schools, and it's an equality issue, because some schools will have good facilities, maybe 2 labs, plenty of resources, whereas other schools, unfortunately, as we well know, haven't near those resources. They haven't the labs. The students won't be able to get into them, and they're going to be disadvantaged, clearly disadvantaged. Even besides the resources issue, and it even comes down to even computer access. I mean, all of these projects now, and this is the student welfare angle. If I know what I'm teaching for 30 years the practical subjects. So I've always taught projects, construction studies and the new drone project. That's 40%, and construction is 50%. So there's no problem with having projects, but it's simply having every single subject with the project now is going to put a huge amount of pressure on students. The competition is going to be fierce, and basically you're going to be pitting one school off the other in terms of resources, or even, obviously I haven't even mentioned the elephant in the room, AI, how this is going to affect all of these project components and stuff. I mean, you'd think that Ireland would know it, considering that we have the headquarters for Google and all of that stuff there. So there's a huge concern in terms of equity of resources. That one school will have a lot of resources, whereas another school, I'm not going to name any names, but I've been many years going around with football teams from schools, and you visit different schools. Straight away you go, wow, this is a really new modern school, and other schools less so. You think, oh, we're waiting on something for 20 years.
And obviously you don't want to name schools, neither do I, but
no.
When are we talking about sort of within Donegal as well, that there are schools that have clear advantages over other schools?
Clear advantages.
Do you think there's a lack of knowledge about these changes amongst parents and guardians?
That's exactly how we feel, and not only some teachers are working hard in the classroom, and I don't even. At times we're trying to say, look, there's going to be a sea change coming down the road very soon in your subject. So a maths teacher, I know Project Maths came in and it was revised several times, but you're going to have a project worth 40%. You know, every teacher, and as a practical teacher, I know what that means for students. It means lots of work, lots of effort, lots of stress. I was in the lucky position that when I was, for the last 30 years, doing construction projects and drawing projects, that the students didn't have projects in every other subject. So I would take them for extra time doing these projects. That's now not going to happen, because you're going to be absolutely flat out with projects all the time, every student. And I mean, it's not the students aren't going to get a break from what I see. They're going to, because the timetable then will be so congested, some of these projects are going to be happening in fifth year. I mean, it's already controversial about English, for example, that they're going to downgrade Leaving Cert English from 2 papers to just 1, and they're going to have the project in fifth year. And you know, I mean, it sounds great at the start of it, Greg, that oh, well, that's brilliant, only having 1 paper instead of 2, less pressure. But if you get a question wrong, or don't do a good job on your 1 paper, your chances of getting a worse mark are hugely increased.
Plus the fact,
obviously, you
obviously,
had the safety of 2 papers.
Yeah, but obviously also too, if they do go ahead with the paper in fifth year, you're not building up towards sixth year. I mean, that the work on that paper obviously has to be accelerated in a shorter period of time.
What knowledge are you testing? Exactly. What knowledge are you testing if it's coming there?
Yeah, your members say
it's not being thought out.
Yeah, your members say sufficient resources need to be provided, and it needs to be ensured that there'll be a level playing field across all schools and centres. In reality, though, even with the deferral of this, can that actually be achieved, or is it actually the structure, the structure that's being proposed is the elephant in the room here, rather than resources and trying to bring all schools up to standard? That would take a generation.
Well, the structure is basically the NCCA is the vehicle and the Department of Education, and they can change curricula, and teachers, you know, have to go along. That's their job. They do that with contract. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to get the teacher voice and the student voice to a certain extent, although there is an ISSU, which we're liaising with, and parent voice. But the consultation process, Greg, has left an awful lot to be desired. That's another thing that we're very unhappy with. The consultation seemed to be a token effort. The subject development groups that you know started writing these new subjects, they weren't even shown the consultation material in appropriate time. I know that happened for the sciences. We had a motion which the department agreed with, that there would be sample exam papers and we would know what the assessment was 1 year before a new subject would start. But of course, no, we have no idea we have no sample papers from the state examinations commissions. We have no marking schemes. I'm hearing reports of teacher training coming in, where the people coming in training for the new Leaving Cert have no idea themselves what the assessment procedures or the marking schemes or anything.
I mean, obviously this is lunchtime. Demonstrations tomorrow outside schools and other like centres where these exams take place. Is this the beginning of it, right? So this is not going to be disruptive. This is teachers deciding to use their lunchtime this way. But how do the ASDI progress their concerns if they're not heeded?
Well, what we do is we take steps at a time. Now it's a joint campaign. It's the ASTI and the TUI. So both teacher unions, and it's important to point out to your listeners, this is a protest. This will not affect students' education in any way. Our members are going out during their own lunch break. The classes go on as normal. The supervision of students at lunchtime is happening for other members. If they're on for that, they must do that. So there will be absolutely no disruption to student learning. That's not the focus. Our focus here is we want to try and get the public to examine this. This is going to happen if you're putting your child into your car from a creche. This will affect your child. The years go quick. Most leaving cert cycles last about 20 years. And certainly if you have someone in primary school now, this is going to be coming down the road for you. It was put under the guise of student well-being from COVID times, and that the Leaving Cert was a high-stakes exam, which it still is, and that this was a way of alleviating student stress. But the way it's put now, it's actually going to increase student stress enormously. And the other thing, too, that is slightly worrying about it is other countries, if they will recognize the Leaving Cert. Canada, for instance, now are starting to say that this assessment method isn't going to be recognized.
Okay.
So the Leaving Cert enjoyed recognition in other countries abroad. There's a danger it won't be with these, because it's not educationally viable. So I'd ask the public to support teachers. We're doing this completely and utterly for the sake of the students and for education standards in Ireland.
All right, Pádraig, listen, thanks very much for your time. I do appreciate it. That's Pádraig Curley there, ASTI Vice President and Donegal School teacher. The local members of the ASTI and TUI will join a nationwide lunchtime protest outside schools and centres that provide the Leaving Cert next Tuesday. That's tomorrow. Sorry, this is a script from last week, which would have left tomorrow next, if you get where I'm coming from. So it's tomorrow lunchtime. And I think that's another story which kind of underlines how little parents potentially know what's going on in schools in terms of not just what is taught or how it's going to be taught, and the potential implications for students that are obviously there. All right, okay, let us take a break. Back with more shortly.
Sponsor of the 9 till noon show, Kernan's Diner, Newton Cunningham, with ample parking for buses and large groups, delicious breakfasts and hearty lunches. It's the ideal spot for a quick bite or leisurely meal.
Tony usually hates her morning commute, but something is different today. Tony has a grin brimming from ear to ear and an uncontrollable urge to tap her toes. You see, she just switched to 48 Mobile, so she now gets unlimited data for $12.99 a month and feels like the smuggest person on the bus. 48 Mobile. Good call. T's and C's apply. See 48.ie. $12.99 one-time activation fee. Unlimited data applies to ROI only, subject to coverage.
Plan the perfect weekend escape from Donegal to Glasgow with Loganair. Enjoy convenient flights every Friday and Sunday with a complimentary 15 kg check-in bag. Experience hassle-free travel and book your getaway now at loganair.co.uk.
Archives? Historic buildings? Museum-grade cases? It pays to be historic. If your organisation can contribute to Ireland's heritage, you may be eligible for a Heritage Stewardship Fund grant. Applications now open at heritagecouncil.ie/funding. Supported by the Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage.
If you're looking for a competitive insurance quote, contact Hickey Clark and Langan Insurance Brokers in Letterkenny. Home, car or van insurance, farm, commercial or public liability insurance. They compare quotes from all the leading insurers so you get a great price. Call Hickey Clark and Langan on 91 26688 or call into the office at Ballymacool, Letterkenny. Hickey Clark and Langan General Insurances Limited, trading as Hickey Clark and Langan, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. If a Call of the Wild flyer pops through your letterbox, it's all about a chance to win your money back. Buy anything at Letterkenny's new outdoor store from now to the 1st of December, and there's a chance you'll win your money back. Whatever you spend on top brand outdoor clothing or footwear, camping or outdoor equipment, there's a draw to win it all back, up to a maximum of €1,000. See callofthewild.ie or see in store at Call of the Wild on Main Street, Letterkenny, just opposite McGee's Chemist.
Join us for a festive evening at Homeland Letterkenny on Thursday 21st of November. Save 20% on all Christmas decor with late night opening until 8 p.m. Festive music, refreshments and more. For more information visit homeland.ie.
Okay, now a couple of comments coming in. Well, loads of comments coming in. Just time for a couple here. Hi, Greg. The Wood had more peace under Trump from 2016 to 2020 until Biden took over, is one person's view. Hi, Greg. I was disappointed in chants in Ireland versus England game. Not only did England boo Ireland's national anthem, there were also chants of F the IRA. It's disgusting that we're back here and hope it gets looked into. Well, FIFA can look into it, of course. It is part of football, unfortunately. But I think the Irish maybe out-booed them by singing the national anthem. So maybe there's a small victory there. I don't know. Baloom Doob joins me on the programme now. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
Great. Now, Baloom's a community worker within the Intercultural platform, and all Donegal candidates in the upcoming general election are being called upon for the commitment to run campaigns that do not incite hatred or prejudice against minority communities. How do you feel they're doing so far?
Well, they could do better. We actually, are inviting them to come and sign up to this very important election protocol. We believe that there is no need for people to be incited. The politics of hate belongs to the past. People should, campaign based on practical things that they want to do for their communities, rather than to divide people.
How do you judge, though, what goes too far? Because the reality is it's not just in this country, it's in many, many countries across the world now. The conversation of immigration is a vote-getter. It's a big topic, it would seem. So, what are the parameters for discussions in that area that don't go too far, if that makes sense, Balume?
Well, you see, what we are calling for really is not for people not to talk about immigration. There's a huge difference between immigration and inciting people to hate each other or to create prejudice, you see. So we are saying that there should be no reason why a campaign should be centered around race or religious belief, or, that people are members of a traveler group or they belong to this group or that. I mean, the issue of migration itself, there's nothing wrong with talking about that. But if it's divisive, then you realize that people have actually gone too far. This is what we're saying, that people, political groups must sign up to this to show that they are really committed to this idea of, of not dividing people. They're staying away from the politics of hate.
Balumi, has this anti-racism election protocol, so you're inviting politicians to come in and sign it, or what's happening? Because we don't have an awful lot long way to go here. It's Friday week, effectively. So how are you progressing this initiative?
We have actually we launched this anti-racism election protocol last week on Tuesday. So in terms of the number of people, if you have come in, and in the past, Fine Gael, Sinn Féin, Fianna Fáil, Labour, and so on, have signed up to this election protocol, and we believe that most parties are actually in line and believe that they believe in the value of the anti-racism election protocol. All we are saying is that they should reaffirm this commitment again and show that they actually are still committed to this idea of a non-racial kind of election.
Yes, so the conversation is not based on someone's ethnicity or their religion.
Yes.
Okay. Obviously, you've mentioned lots of parties there. There's 20 candidates. Many of them are independent or from smaller parties as well. Everyone equally invited to sign up to this protocol.
Oh, yes. Oh yes, everybody is invited. All we're saying is that we need to make a really loud and overwhelming shout about the importance of focusing on real issues. While migration might be a part of it, it's not the only thing. I mean, the government has to focus on issues like healthcare, building more hospitals, ensuring that there are enough nurses, enough doctors. That has got nothing to do with race. That has got nothing to do with belonging to a traveler group or belonging to a certain religious group. And this is exactly what we're saying. Let's focus on the real issues at hand and stay away from this politics of hatred and inciting people to hate each other. We've seen the results of that. Arson attacks, destruction of buildings, and so on and so forth. That's what we're saying. That if once people sort of sign up to this, then they are committed to actually talking about the issues at hand. And it's not always about race. It's not always about religion. It's not always about membership to a traveler group or some such thing.
Okay. Right, we'll get an update, hopefully, closer to the election to see what level of sign-up there's been. But for now, Balumi Dubi, thank you so much for your time. I do appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us.
Okay,
Great.
take
Enjoy
care
the
of
rest
yourself.
of the day.
You too, Balumi. Thank you so very much indeed. 08660 25,000. A caller says, what about the proposed farmland tax? No one's talking about that. But in terms of what we talk about in the programme, obviously we're very much listener-driven as well. We do try and pick up topics, but there's so many out there. We have talked about the proposed farmland tax in the past, but more than happy to talk about it again. We were talking about 4-day weeks last week. 4 days is the same hours in Donegal. Surely it makes sense on fuel costs, all right? If people would be happy to do 5 days, hours in 4 days. The USC tax change was introduced in 2008 as a temporary measure. Why are we workers still paying it? It is a big election topic. I know it's frustrating, but is that person in the car, their job, any more important than the tractor drivers? This is off the back of someone who was very frustrated being behind a tractor on Friday. Also, obviously, polls are coming out thick and fast. Greg Hughes, are polls that you talked about on the programme regarding the percentages of the different parties running for government actually true, or are they just made up so that people will think that the same Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael are getting the backing of most of the Irish people? I mean, it's a blunt instrument, okay, because they contact 1,200 people around the country. You could sort of say, well, they're useless, but at the same time, if you slip back in them, you do take notice of them. So the only poll that matters is obviously Friday the 29th, but do parties take note of them or ignore them? No, I don't think they do. And they do seem to reflect a general feeling in a country, but not necessarily in your friends group or your community. Simon Harris says the listener doesn't have a very good relationship with the women of Ireland when it comes to health. They had to fight through the courts to get answers for themselves when they needed answers. Why is nobody reporting on the Irishman in Budapest that killed a woman and put her in a suitcase? Or is it the case that he just has an Irish passport and that's why nobody wants to mention it? We mentioned it a couple of times on this programme. Obviously, we cover primarily local and regional issues, but it was mentioned on this show as well. I think sometimes when a case is when a criminal case is progressing the way that has, right, and there's an admission of guilt as there was in that case, it kind of falls away quite quickly in terms of the news cycle for good or bad. A caller says, I can't believe you suggested on Friday that 4 years is not long enough to prove that the current coalition is totally unwilling to fix this country. How blind are we when we cannot see they're only looking after their wealthy mates? What I was saying is some of the big problems, i.e. housing and health, they're argued in 4-year cycles that these are long-term problems and need to be looked at. I'd love to see a coalition, all parties working together, regardless of actually who is in power, on matters such as health and housing, squabbling over it. We'll do this, we'll do that, we'll do the other. These are such critical things to the state. I don't think really they can be argued every 4 years. That's the point I was making. And maybe if they all had responsibility, there'd be less infighting and more progress in getting them resolved. We also referenced some positives in the country on Friday, which some took issue with. If it's such a great country, why do we dread going to the ED? Why are houses falling around us, to name but a few? This has all been overseen by the current government parties over numerous governments, and if people vote them in again, they'll be endorsing their huge failures, and don't be coming back afterwards complaining. Time to give someone else a chance, they say. Greg, the new incoming government could save a good few euro if they took a look at Donegal County Council. I've been on the road nearly every day the past while, and the ongoing road works. There's always groups of men working there. I read that one last week, actually, saying they're not working as hard as they might be. But anyway, I kind of mitigated that. Right, I did read those last week. I'll get to more of your comments and more interviews, of course, after we take a short break. Stay where you are. We'll come back with the weather.
Sponsor of the 9 till noon show, Kernan's Diner, Newton Cunningham, with ample parking for buses and large groups, delicious breakfasts and hearty lunches. It's the ideal spot for a quick bite or leisurely meal.
Hello, Widow Twacky here. Join me and my friends in the Millennium Forum this Christmas for the biggest panto in town. Aladdin is on from the 29th of November until the 31st of December, and it's going to be great cracks. Bring all the family. Get your tickets at millenniumforum.co.uk, and it's sponsored by the Richmond Centre.
Do you need a UK address? Save hundreds of euros on custom charges shopping online with Space Hub Dairy. We provide a full virtual address mailbox service for all your business and personal use. Save hundreds, possibly thousands, on custom charges with Space Hub Dairy. Call 048 7187 8077 for more details.
Calling all electricians. Do you have a level 6 certificate in electrical engineering and at least 5 years of industry experience? Then ATU wants to hear from you. ATU is hiring technicians and lecturers to train electrical apprentices at our state-of-the-art facilities in Killybegs. If you are excited to share your knowledge with the next generation of electricians, join us at the Recruitment Information Evening at ATU Donegal's Killybegs campus on Monday 18th of November from 5 p.m. until 7:30 p.m. or visit atu.ie/jobs.
Thinking about upgrading your car? Pre-order your brand new Kia now with iMotors. We're offering one lucky customer a chance to win €10,000 when they pre-order with iMotors. Avail of 0% finance and a free home charger on selected vehicles. Grab a €500 super value voucher and 7 years warranty. Visit iMotors today and upgrade your car.
iMotors, fearless generation.
With more routes nationwide, your TFI Local Link bus service provides connection to the wider Transport for Ireland public transport network. Save up to 30% when you use your TFI Leap card on TFI Local Link services. For route and timetable information, visit transportforireland.ie. We're Transport for Ireland. We're transport for you.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenney's. Find the perfect present for everyone on your list this festive season. Discover the joy of gifting and make Christmas magical with McElhenney's Ballybuffet. Visit us in-store or online at mcelhenneys.com.
So today will be wet with spells of rain, which will be heavy at times, and they'll turn to sleet or snow across our region later this evening, especially on high ground, but not exclusively. Highest temperatures of 3 to 5 degrees with light to moderate easterly winds. That's how the weather is looking. As you would know, we do have a yellow weather warning in situ. So it's a moderate weather warning, moderate, for snow, ice for Donegal. Snowfall accumulations possible this evening and overnight. Possible impacts, poor visibility, difficult driving conditions. It's valid from 7 p.m. tonight to 8 a.m. Tomorrow, and it's affecting Cavan, Donegal and Leitrim. So you'll get to see some snow falling at least, if that's what you want. But hopefully it doesn't disrupt traffic too much in the morning. Great to hear that things are moving forward for the new school in Milford, if they are. But anyway, the caller goes on to say, part of me feels very, very sad for Scoil Isigon in my own town of Buncrana, who were to get a new school 12 or 13 years ago or more, and it never materialised. And I feel our councillors are not fighting hard enough for it, just my view. Greg, it should not be called alternative medicine. This is in relation to proposals we had from one election candidate for acupuncture to be, as an example, to be employed more in acute hospitals. So this is a reaction to that statement. Greg, it should not be called alternative medicine or treatments. What it is actually original treatment. Most original medicine are based on herbs, etc. It's not used so much now. It's because it can't be patented. Sadly, most doctors treat the symptoms, not the root cause of any condition. Just ask a doctor how long they spend on nutrition, and ultimately it's the root cause of most problems, says a listener there. We were talking too about changes to the roads infrastructure in Letterkenny. A caller says a big loss of parking, especially at the bottom of Convent Road, as a result of these proposed changes. The perennial, the always issue that's always there is cyclists not using cycle lanes, instead using roads that run alongside cycle lanes. This caller says, why are cyclists not being fined for not using the cycle lanes? Because they're not obliged to, you see. They're not obliged to use them. So that would take a change in law. A caller says, making cycle lanes in Letterkenny is a waste of time and money, as cyclists use the footpath anyway and go against the flow of traffic. We need to focus on controlling traffic, not cycle lanes. There's a part of the Ramelton Road past the Mount Errigal Hotel that it's proposed will narrow to 2 lanes. This is to facilitate 2 cycle lanes. Obviously, anyone who uses that road knows that it is quite congested as is. And we heard from Councillor Kieran Brogan, who's concerned that narrowing it to 2 lanes in front of that hotel will cause even more problems. I wonder how many of these tests were cancelled due to Joe Soap not turning up on the day. They might not have turned up as they don't feel that they were ready for their test. I actually read that one last week. We know why they're being cancelled on this occasion. Maybe that does happen, but who's to say? The same thing happened in the 60s and 70s. We had long wait times for driving tests. There was a shortage of testers and people were given out licences. That's right, the licence amnesty, wasn't it? Many people were given licences for buses and lorries and they ticked as applicable. The same thing could happen again, as we just want to get people out on the road. We could give out licences without a test. We do need to get more testers, as many as it takes. We need to give testers more money and they'll soon come. I can't imagine a situation in this day and age where we'd ever have a licence amnesty again. I just think we're far more, I was going to say advanced, than we were then. The disability allowance should not be means tested, says the listener. If people get a settlement after an accident, every benefit is taken from them, including the bus pass, TV allowance, fuel allowance and disability allowance. So the disabled person has to manage to live on that money for the rest of their lives, even though it is so expensive having a disability. And last one here. Before the news, I wish to highlight a terrible situation unfolding for our Ukrainian friends in Ramelton. They're staying in an apartment building, about 6 families, I believe, and have been given 30 days to vacate the apartments. They now must either find alternative accommodation in Ramelton or be at the mercy of the government and sent to wherever they feel fit. They have integrated in our community. The children attend our schools and are part of our football club. Many of the parents are working and one family has set up a business. It's a sad situation when the government agencies can play games with people's lives in the mouth of Christmas. One local there expressing their concerns for their the new members of their community. Right, we'll be back with so much more in the 9 till noon show after a break for the news and obituary notices.
Need rapid care for a minor injury or fracture? Why wait when you can be seen today at Kingsbridge Northwest's Minor Injuries and Fracture Clinic? See a GP with A&E experience and avail of further scans or surgery with highly trained nurses, radiologists and orthopaedic surgeons on site. Available Monday through to Saturday for Leah insured and self-paying patients. Visit kingsbridgegpclinic.com today for further information.
Hello, my name's Enda Walsh and I'm a dairy farmer from Ormore, County Galway. In Ireland, we're always looking for a better cow. A cow that's healthier, happier and longer lived. A cow that gives us more milk of a higher quality with specific health benefits. A cow that has a lower carbon footprint. We're finding that better cow through our world-leading breeding programs based on years of science and research. I'm speaking on behalf of the National Dairy Council, everyone's dairy.
Ensure the safety of your team with SafeTech. We have part-funded courses in first aid, people moving and handling, confined spaces, food hygiene, quad bikes, fire warden, IPAF MUPS, electrofusion, welding and machinery cards for Ireland and UK sites. Also delivering online courses like utilities, water hygiene and construction supervisors. SafeTech can deliver group training at your business premises. To find out more, contact safetech.ie today. Enhanced TFI Local Link Route 953. Greencastle to Letterkenny now operates 8 daily return services Monday to Friday, 7 daily return services on Saturday and 6 daily return services on Sunday. Route 953 provides peak time and evening services, connectivity to ATU Donegal and regional bus services. We're Transport for Ireland. We're Transport for you. See locallinkdsl.ie for more. Brought to you as part of the Connecting Ireland Rural Mobility Plan.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock. Donald Kavanagh at the news desk. Guardia and emergency services are at the scene of a workplace incident that occurred at a property in Letterkenny this morning at approximately 8 o'clock. The incident took place in an area between Windy Hall and Killylaston. The extent of injuries, if any, has not yet been confirmed. Guardia say no further information is available at the moment and their investigations at the scene are ongoing. A status yellow snow ice warning has been issued for Donegal, Cavan and Leitrim. Met Éireann say snowfall accumulations are possible this evening and overnight with the potential for poor visibility and difficult travelling conditions. The alert came into effect from 7 o'clock this evening and will last until 8 tomorrow morning. 20 candidates will contest 5 seats in the Donegal constituency when the general election takes place on Friday week, November 29th. 7 more than did so in February 2020. Nominations closed on Saturday. The full list of candidates has now been published. You can see that on our website, highlandradio.com. The first TV debate of the campaign, meanwhile, will be the main focus for the political parties this evening. Sean Defoe has more.
Really the big one today as we enter the second full week of campaigning is going to be the leaders' debate tonight. 10 leaders sharing the stage, so it will be hard for any of them to make a big impact due to simple time restrictions. It's all going to be about watching the one-liners. Can someone deliver a killer blow? Do the opposition all manage to gang up successfully on the government? And how do Micheál Martin and Simon Harris handle being sort of frenemies, both trumpeting the same achievements of the government but also trying to stand out as distinctive Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil leaders?
Well, a potential rift developing between the two main parties in government, with Taoiseach Micheál Martin saying the altercation involving Fine Gael Senator John McGahon was clearly not a scuffle. Mr McGahon was acquitted of a criminal charge for his role in an incident outside a pub in 2018, but was found liable in a civil action. An image of the injuries suffered by farmer Breen White in the altercation were published in a national newspaper yesterday, with video footage of Mr McGahon circulating widely online. Taoiseach Simon Harris has continued to back his candidate in Louth. However, Taoiseach Micheál Martin says he has real problems with what happened.
It clearly wasn't a scuffle, and there was people had to pull him off literally. In my view, it does raise very serious questions. Ultimately, the people of Louth will decide on it.
Would a Fianna Fáil candidate who'd done the same thing still be a candidate?
I'm not so sure, if I'm honest, that they would. And it certainly is a matter that the party would have considered.
ESB Networks say 719 customers in the Newton Cunningham area are without power this morning. The outage was reported at around 9:15. It's hoped that power will be restored within the next half hour or so. ESB Networks at present showing an estimated restoration time of 10:15. That may change. Police in Derry are investigating the theft of an E4 Williams triaxle trailer from Campsie Industrial Estate in Derry on Friday evening last. The trailer, which has a dent under the brake light on the right-hand side, is reported to have been seen in the area being towed by a white van. Anyone who believes they've seen the trailer, knows of its whereabouts or has information in relation to the theft are asked to contact the PSNI. A Glenties councillor says he's very optimistic that the recently formed town team will play a significant role in bringing much needed investment and development to the town. Councillor Brian Carr says a preliminary meeting earlier this month was very positive. The Glenties town team was formed earlier this year with similar initiatives in Creasla, Ballabafay, Stranora, Buncrana and Moville. Ultimately, the hope is to secure town centre first projects such as the one in Milford, which has already seen €100,000 allocated this year. Councillor Carr is hoping Glenties can secure something similar.
It's a groundbreaker. We had a big meeting. There was about 25 people at it. We had consultants, which has been appointed through the council. And there's a great feel-good factor at the moment. There's a fantastic committee there in place at the moment, and they're pushing things forward. And the concept of the town teams, we didn't really have the council behind us and other groups and other teams for years, but we have it now, and I think this is going to be fantastic for the town going forward.
And Health Minister Stephen Donnelly is being accused of gaslighting the women of Ireland with the free HRT scheme. Pharmacists estimate the annual cost of treatment could range from 18 to just over €1,200, covering everything from the initial consultation to monthly prescriptions. The scheme, set to begin on January 1st next year, is being criticised by pharmacist Sheena Mitchell. The Minister is describing it as a free scheme. She says it's anything but.
This scheme does not reflect free HRT. It's more like a subsidy, which will reflect approximately a 5.5 to 9.6% saving for the patient of their total HRT cost. And when you contrast this to the free contraception scheme, which is worded in exactly the same way, where there is no cost, I have to say that it is very misleading for women in the country.
Wet with spells of rain today, heavy at times, turning to sleet or snow later this evening, especially on higher ground. Top temperatures 3 to 5 degrees Celsius with light to moderate easterly winds. And just a reminder, that yellow ice and snow warning coming into effect at 7 o'clock this evening and lasting until 8 tomorrow morning. We're back with news headlines again at 11 o'clock, but for now, from the news team, good morning. The obituary notices for this Monday morning, the 18th of November. The death has taken place of Danny Sweeney, Maharalosk Bunbeg. His remains will repose at Rorty's funeral home, Derrybeg, today and tomorrow from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. with Rosary nightly at 8. Removal to the family home after the Rosary tomorrow. The house is private, please. Funeral Mass in St Mary's Church, Derrybeg at 11 o'clock on Wednesday morning, followed by interment in Maharagalan Cemetery. The funeral Mass can be viewed live on Kieran Rorty Funeral Director's Facebook page. The death has occurred of George Sterrett, Rincleven, Dunfanaghy. His remains will repose at his late residence from 4 o'clock this afternoon. Funeral service at the Presbyterian Church, Dunfanaghy, on Wednesday afternoon at 2, followed by burial in Ballymore Graveyard. Family time, please, from 11 p.m. to 10 a.m. and on the morning of the funeral. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to Medical 3, Letterkenny University Hospital, care of any family member or James Harkin, Funeral Director. The death has occurred of Bridge McGee, née Moyne, Upper Slavery, Buncrana. Her remains will repose at her home from 11 o'clock this morning. Removal from there on Wednesday morning at 10:15, going to St Mary's Church, Cockhill, for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass, followed by interment in the adjoining cemetery. The Requiem Mass can be viewed on churchservices.tv. Family time, please, from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to the Donegal Hospice, care of any family member or Murphy Funeral Directors. The death has taken place of Nan Anastasia Henry, née McCormick, Tardrum, Greencastle, reposing at her home. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 10:30 for 11 o'clock funeral mass in St Mary's Church, Ballybrack, followed by burial in Ballybrack Graveyard. Rosary at 9 with family time, please, from 10 p.m. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to Carndunna Community Hospital and Nazareth House. The death has taken place of Anna French, née Rowan, Boya, Port Hall, Lifford, reposing at her home. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 10:20 for Requiem Mass in St Patrick's Church, Murlock, Lifford at 11. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Donations in lieu of flowers, please, to the Donegal Hospice, care of Quigley Funeral Directors. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. And the death has occurred of Nora T. Quinn, Glen Road, Glenties, formerly the Glen Tavern, Greenans, Glenties. Nora's remains are reposing at her home with removal from there this evening at 5:30 to the Church of the Holy Family, Edeninfa, for 6 o'clock to repose overnight. Funeral Mass tomorrow at 12 noon, with burial afterwards in the family plot at Edeninfa. For family information and more details regarding wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
VHI Healthcare gives you and your family more. Get access to VHI Paediatric Clinic, urgent care, online doctor, and much more. Search VHI today and get 25% off kids on a range of plans. VHI, because your health means everything. See vhi.ie for range of plans. VHI Healthcare DAC trading as VHI Healthcare is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland and is tied to VHI Insurance DAC for health insurance in Ireland.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
You're very welcome back to the programme. Just to remind you that we had an enjoyable launch of Highland Radio's Christmas car draw, and you can win a car for Christmas. Simple as that. It's a brand new Toyota Yaris Cross worth over €30,000, and we had a wee run on it yesterday, and it's a beautiful wee car. And all you have to do to enter our draw is all you have to do to win is enter our draw. Is to enter our draw. You buy a ticket by simply logging onto our website, highlandradio.com, and click Win a Car. And you'll have just two options this time. Buying one ticket for €15 or 5 for 50. So 5 for 50 represents obviously really good value there. You'll receive an email with your tickets attached. It's that simple. And you never know, it could be you to get a call on the 23rd of December to win that car. Now, you don't have to answer the call to win it. It's just we'll try and ring you to say congratulations, but you don't have to take a call to win the car. You can also buy your tickets here at the radio station, highlandradio.com, or give us a call and we can help process that for you as well, 07491 25,000, or you can call in with cash. Everyone's different in how they want to do it, but anyway, we don't know what it is yet because there's a bit of secrecy, but there will always be, shall we say, little bonuses along the way. So stay tuned for that. But if you get in early, get your ticket early, you're in that automatically. So you can just sit back and wait to see if you are drawn out of the draw drum on December 23rd. So if you want to win this lovely car worth over €30,000, it's a Toyota Yaris Cross. Just go onto our website, highlandradio.com, and click Win a Car. Buy a ticket for 15 or 5 for 50, and you can individually name those tickets as well. Good luck. It's always popular. Right. Hi, Greg. Going to apologise in advance for this long email, but here goes. My daughter was transferred for an ultrasound on her arm by a GP. We were on the waiting list for 8 weeks. Today I got a call from Aphidia to say they have an appointment for her on Monday, which was great until they said I have to pay in advance. I went on to explain that she's 15 and she has a medical card under me. The receptionist said she has to pay because she does not hold her own medical card. If she was 16, she would have her own card and get it for free. I was confused, so I told him to call back later. I phoned the HSE to see if this was the case, and they said yes. Under the regulations of the waiting list being transferred to private, in the small print it says all procedures, ultrasounds and x-rays are free to anyone 16 and over with their own medical card. So therefore, anyone under 16 on their parents' medical card are not covered. So I ended up having to pay €180 because my child needs the ultrasound. Just want to highlight this and see if it's right, or can I get reimbursed? Well, I suspect if the HSE have informed you that it's the case, it is the case. So it's right in terms of that's what they say and that's what they do. Is it right? Should that be the case? Clearly not. I mean, if your child's on your medical card, you would imagine that they would benefit from that. And if it was 1 year hence or 1 year on and she had her own medical card, it would be free. Instead, €180. Now, obviously, you're on a medical card because your income has been assessed. So finding €180, I'm sure, not terribly easy. We were at a dance recently for a country music gig. It was €20 on the door. Usually it's €15. In another venue, it's €20, but there are two big bands, so it's 4 hours plus of music. A support act was on for less than an hour before the main act. This was only 3.5 hours of music. This wasn't value for money. I spoke to the manager. They said, if you don't like it, don't come in. I spoke to the performer after the show. I asked for the explanation. They said, if you don't like it, don't come. Why can nobody regulate these concerts? The country music industry seems to be able to do whatever they want and charge what they want. If I bought a loaf of bread, I'd be able to complain. I mean, it's a toughie, right? But it's like an electrician or a plumber. If an electrician has a very good reputation and they come quickly and get the job done and you're happy with the job, they can charge you, I don't know, €200. If there's another electrician that has not quite a good reputation or maybe isn't as quick, they might charge €130. It really is up to each individual, I suppose, to charge how much they charge to the venue, and then the venue have to reflect that in the price. It's not one size fit all, as far as I'm aware. There's no sort of standard fee. So there's always going to be a variance, I presume, and maybe some artists want less money. They don't need as much money, or maybe there's one extra band member and that's another wage that has to be covered. There's so many variables. I'm surprised you were told not to come in if you don't like it. I'm not sure how that conversation went, but there is always going to be sort of discrepancies in that area. I'll take it to sort of 18-year-olds. If it was one of the nightclubs booking a DJ, you'll get one DJ that costs, $5,000 to come and play a gig, and another DJ that might charge $2,500, or another DJ that might charge €150, and the door price will generally reflect that. Maybe there's something else going on and I missed it in your comment. I appreciate you sending it in nonetheless, but as I say, it doesn't surprise me.
It's time for Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Monday, the 18th of November. You're playing on the green sheet. The reference number is S11. It's game number 47. The numbers are 50, 23, 36, 40, 70, 80, 7, 6, 34, and finally 14. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your Vision Ireland bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Tá gá irid seansig póistíon flua oil agus atáig daoine fásta. Rud a déach a bheith ina chúiscinis chun cúisig. Tá gad páiste idir gábhlín agus 7 mlína déag díis in an vaccine flu sróna oil sé ar náisce. Is bailach sa bháilte agus éfachtach atá an soc in iad cushions, combáid leis an cuid eile den teilech. Jane cuine le a Doctor Generalta nó le a Fotagéir. Tile óla sé ar fáil ag hsc.ie/flu ón HSC.
Connect Hearing is open for free hearing tests. Our audiologist is available Monday to Friday for wax removal services at our Letterkenny Clinic in the Courtyard Shopping Centre. We also offer a home visit for those who are unable to visit us. Our hearing is our social sense. Are you finding hearing more of a challenge? Call Ursula today on 07491 13296 to make an appointment. Good hearing helps us to connect to our family, friends and loved ones. Connect Hearing, connecting you to life.
TFI Local Link has enhanced bus services around the Inishowen Peninsula, including routes 952, 954, 957 and 966, and new route 959. The routes operate up to 7 daily return services and offer peak time and evening services, as well as providing improved connectivity to Erfurt Dunanal, ATU Donegal and the Ulster University. We're Transport for Ireland. We're Transport for you. See locallinkdsl.ie. Brought to you as part of the Connecting Ireland Rural Mobility Plan.
Now, you are very welcome back to the 9 till noon show here on Highland Radio. And I'm very pleased to welcome into studio with me Professor William A. Thomas, Director of the Pope John Paul II Institute on Marian Studies. Thank you for your time and thank you so much for calling in.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'll just ask you to move that microphone.
There
Perfect
we go.
there, that's it. Now, you have with you a very special item. Can you talk to us as to what it is?
Yes, it's a first-class relic of Pope St. John Paul II. It's very rare. It's very powerful. God uses relics to effect miracles, and there have been many miracles attributed to Pope St. John Paul II.
Now, we have this first-class relic of Pope John Paul II, as you just heard from the professor, very, very rare. It'll be here at Highland Radio for the next 20 minutes. So I've been advised by Caroline, if you are passing and want to call in, you are feel free to do so. Can you give us the history of it, please, William?
Well, I have several first-class relics of Pope St. John Paul II. We have his blood. We have the hair from his last haircut. And basically, these relics are quite rare because, you know, he died in 2005 and he won't be exhumed until 2050 or 2055. There's a rule in the Fabrica in the Vatican that they don't exhume for 50 years. We have no doubt that his body is incorrupt. And so these relics then are the blood that was taken from him at the Policlinico Gemelli before he died. There were 4 vials of that blood, and also the last haircut. So in that sense, there's not an inexhaustible supply of these relics, if you know.
Okay, and describe, for those watching, they'll be able to see, describe what is in front of us.
It's the hair of Pope St. John Paul II.
Okay. And where is that located? I don't know. Can you touch it? Is it disrespectful?
Yes, of course. Okay. And also, if you smell it, you'll know it's from the Pope.
And how does a person get a benefit from this? What is the procedure? My words are incredibly clumsy. Apologies.
Yes. God effects miracles through the saints, and one of the ways He does it is through the relics, and it's like touch. You know, like in the biblical account, we have the touching of the hem of Jesus by the woman who hemorrhaged for all her life, and she was cured. And likewise, when we touch the saints, we sometimes, Our Lady doesn't cure everybody, the saints don't cure everybody, but they do cure some. And those people who may be sick, who are in great need, yes, they will be healed.
And so, do people pray and then touch the relic, or pray over it, or be in its vicinity?
I can say a prayer of invocation by placing the relic on their forehead, and then it's up to the Pope to intercede for them before the Blessed Trinity after that.
Now, this is all part of more than the important matter of the relic being in the region. Talk to me a bit more about that, Professor.
Well, I've come to Buncrana, or will be in Buncrana this coming Thursday evening at 7 p.m, where I'll talk about the urgency of the message of Fatima. We live in a world today that's very commercialized, and for many, there's no room for God anymore. But in 1917, Our Lady appeared in Fatima on 6 occasions to the 3 children of Fatima. We know them as Jacinta Marto and Francisco Marto. Both of these now are saints of God, already canonized, and with Sister Lucy, who was the main seer, who died also in 2005. And Our Lady intervenes to call humanity back to recognize the existence of God and the fact that we have, for the first time in the history of humanity, an analysis of where humanity actually stands before God. And Our Lady says at that time, God is already too much offended by man's sins. And therefore, there is a call to repentance. There's a call to reparation, to make up for those terrible sins. We all know the sins of abortion and the sins of euthanasia, the sins of murder, and so on and so forth. These call out to heaven for vengeance. And so it's important that we pay heed to this message of Our Lady in Fatima, which the Church has said is worthy of belief.
You're of the view, many are of the view that in her appearances she, foreshadowed events and outlined really the path that humanity would need to take to avoid such events, or future events for that matter.
Yes, indeed. When we pray, we change the course of history. And of course, there are 20 appeals within the School of Mary of Fatima. And the first of those is a call to believe. And I think most Irish people deep down, especially those who are baptized and confirmed, have that notion of God. And they have a notion of where they stand themselves before God. I'm always inspired and impressed by the number of daily Mass goers. And it's not so much as we hear the Scripture every day. That's what we call informative. But we need to become more performative. We need to absorb the message that the Church is teaching, that Christ is teaching through His Word, and put it into action. We need to adopt an apostolate, ideally of some charitable outlook. One of the great, Mother Teresa of Calcutta, who's a friend of mine, would say one of the greatest tragedies, or the loneliest country in the world was the United States, because people don't speak to each other. And, the Irish, I was driving from Cork yesterday to get here, and I remember passing some remote place near Ballygar, and there was a man in the field feeding sheep, and he waved to me. And I said, that's what Ireland is about. It's about community. It's about greeting. It's about, love of your fellow man. And I love that about this country,
So the third secret of Fatima will be discussed. Why is that an important conversation?
Because a lot of people don't understand there is one secret in three parts. And like all authentic Marian shrines, and I have volume 1 of the work that I have done for the church, I'm now on volume 5, which it contains all of the Marian shrines of the world that the church has said, these are authentic, worthy of belief. There is a prophetic dimension in these. And when we look at the prophetic dimension of Fatima, everything that Our Lady said came to pass. Everything from one of the greatest miracles of modern times, the miracle of the sun on the 13th of October. It spun in the sky. It did all kinds of dance, as they call it. It came close to the earth. People thought it was the end of the world. And yet people were healed. People were dried out because they'd been there all night, 70 to 100,000 people standing in muck. And when this thing was over, 2 minutes later, everyone was bone dry. The incredulous came to believe what was incredible.
And there'll be conversation, of course, a Q&A, right? The showing of the documentary, Fatima, The Ultimate Mystery, the movie, that's also going to be shown on Thursday, the 21st of November. And just to let you know, it starts at 7 p.m. It's in the Plaza Community Hall, Buncrana Main Street. Tickets are €10. It's cash only. And tickets are bought at the event. They can't be bought in advance per se. Talk to me about this documentary.
This documentary we brought together in Fatima for the centenary, the world experts on Fatima, and we interviewed them. And basically what they relay are the facts of Fatima, not so much the spirituality, which I will talk about before the documentary, but the facts. What happened? Why did it happen? When did it happen? What was the prophetic dimension? What was going on in the world at the time? The Bolshevik Revolution? In October of 1917, Our Lady was appearing already in Fatima before that. And and she warns about these errors of Russia, the usurping of the commandments of God. And so it's very important that we pay heed to the Fatima message and that we do make reparation. She does call, of course, for the 5 First Saturday devotions. She called for the consecration of Russia, which was made by Pope St. John Paul II on the 25th of March, 1984. But she also, in the same sentence, calls for the 5 First Saturday devotions. In each diocese, it hasn't happened yet. You get it sporadically in different parishes, but a lot of the clergy will not say the Saturday morning Mass, sadly. But I think it's my belief that when we do subscribe to the 5 First Saturday devotions, as she asked in Fatima, then the triumph of her Immaculate Heart will begin.
Why do you believe that that the priests aren't engaging in that?
Well, many priests, because they have the Vigil Mass of Saturday evening, and they're preparing their homilies and whatever, they don't do some priests do. Yeah. Thanks be to God for that. I've never been short of being able to go on the 5 First Saturday devotions and what they entail, the communion of reparation, confession, and so on. Wonderful. And we get great graces from those.
When you travel and sharing this message, are you always preaching to the converted, or do you notice people maybe with little or no faith coming on board? I was going to say converted. It's a hard. I can't think of the word to describe it without it sounding cultish or something, right? But that they are they become devotees to this way of thinking.
Well, a lot of people, for example, it would be my wish that people who come to the talks on Thursday next in Buncrana, that they might be inspired to go to Fatima during the Jubilee year, which is fast approaching, and there see for themselves the events that are happening there. And yes, so I would say that every time you preach or teach some aspect of Marian devotion, Marian theology, whatever, then you will get people who take it seriously. This is where it becomes what I said earlier, performative.
I get you. Now, I mean, there's two of us in a room here with a relic from Pope St. John Paul II. I mean, ordinarily, you know, if you were to travel with this relic, I presume it draws huge crowds. I mean, this is quite a unique situation for me.
Yes. Well, it should do. People are fascinated by relics, more so the Irish, as we have seen with the relics of St. Bernadette. The difference with that particular devotion with Bernadette here is you didn't get to touch the relic itself. You touched the glass case. You didn't get blessed with the relic itself. Whereas with this one, you get to touch it and you get it on your forehead, so to speak, with the prayer of intercession. So it makes it's more personal in that sense.
Yeah, and that contains actual hair of
Pope St. John Paul.
Pope St. John Paul II. And what is, in terms of his sainthood, what is the process from now for that to be fully established?
Well, normally the somebody who lives a holy life, the life is examined at their death. Their writings are examined, a decree of heroic virtue. They must practice, or at least be proven to have practiced heroic virtue for a minimum of 10 years. When the theologians come together to examine the life and issue a decree of nihil obstat, which is nothing, it goes then forward to the College of Cardinals, who will talk about it in a consistory, and they bring it to the Pope. So part of that process is a miracle is required for the beatification, and a miracle is required for the canonization. And so in Pope St. John Paul's case, a nun was dying, Sister Simone Pierre of the Motherhood of God, the religious sisters from Paris, was suffering from Parkinson's disease. She got an inspiration 3 months only after the death of Pope John Paul that they should pray to him. And so she was in a wheelchair, she was bent over, she was close to death, and she asked one of the sisters for pen and paper, and she scribbled, "Priez pour moi à Pape Jean-Paul II." Pray for me to Pope St. John Paul. And Mother General decided to do a novena. On the third morning of that novena, which was obviously very intense, the nun, who was paralyzed with Parkinson's, jumped out of bed and walked to the chapel to discover she was completely healed, and she's still alive to tell the tale.
And presumably that occurrence it comes in for very strong scrutiny.
Oh, absolutely. All the medical records of her are before and after. Yeah. I mean,
not only from the church, but obviously externally, you're going to get an awful lot of scrutiny of something like
miracles that. have to be immediate and inexplicable to science. Then we know that person has great power of intercession before God. In Pope St. John Paul's case, we had over 35,000 miracles. This was just one that was accepted. And the case of the canonization was Floribeth Diaz from Costa Rica, and she was cured immediately from an aneurysm in the brain, and of course lives on to tell the tale.
Okay, so we're talking to Professor William A. Thomas. This is he's the director of Pope John Paul II Institute on Marian Studies. And what a piece of work you've undertaken in your compendiums. That's volume 1.
That's volume 1. 5th. Yes, each compendium has 600 pages.
Yes, it's a significant piece of work. There's no doubt about that.
Thank you.
Okay, so there'll be all your questions answered on Fatima, and also a presentation from the professor, and the showing of a documentary film called Fatima, the Ultimate Mystery, the movie. It's all on Thursday, the 21st of November at 7 p.m. Tickets are €10. It's cash only, pay at the door. Is Is it clear as to why it was Fatima?
In
what terms
sense?
of location, why Our Lady appeared at Fatima?
Well, there is no real significance, only that they were 3 children. I think we have to understand.
It was more the individuals than the location?
I believe so.
Mm-hmm.
I believe so. But we have to understand also that in 2015, there were 3 apparitions that Lucia reveals. We don't just have her own account of this. We have the critical documentation, which is the witness statements of everybody who lived in Fatima. We have 5 volumes of those. So not only do we have the memoirs of Sister Lucy, but she does say that in 2015 we had 3, and then we had 3 of the angel in, sorry, I said 2015, I should have said 1915. 1916 we had the 3 of the angel, which were preparatory for Our Lady, and then in 1917 from May 13th to October 13th we had the 6, and in there she makes the same appeal every day that she appears. Pray the rosary every day for peace. Peace, of course, internal peace, and pray for the world peace. And that's one thing that's failing today. The Irish were always known to be the nation of the rosary. I hope they haven't abandoned it. And if they have, I hope they pick it up again, especially for this forthcoming Jubilee year.
Yeah, I mean, it's still quite widely used, of course, wakes and at times of... obviously when things are the worst, that's when we tend to lean on our...
Yes, but it would be wonderful to have it in the family every day.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay, Professor, by the way, I'm not sure if I did mention or not, at the event on Thursday as well, there will be a blessing with the relic of Pope Saint John Paul II, as we've been discussing. That relic will be in place there, and a blessing. There you are. Okay, Professor William A. Thomas, thank you so much for your time.
You're
I do
welcome.
appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much indeed. We'll be back with more shortly.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
The 9 till noon show brought to you by Kernan's Diner, Newton Cunningham. Try our famous trucker stop breakfast. Fresh fish and chips or gourmet burgers. Delicious meals and welcoming service await you at Kernan's. There's bingo every Monday night at Halfway House Burnfoot. Doors open 7:30 with eyes down at 8:30. €2,500 must go. The snowball is now €2,900 on 45 numbers or less. If you're not in, you can't win. That's Halfway House Bingo tonight at 8:30.
At AXA, blocked drains and burst pipes don't worry us. And the kids? Well, let them be kids. From the little accidents to life's bigger problems, these things happen. But with AXA Home Insurance, our 24/7 emergency home assistance will have a fully qualified tradesperson with you quick. Together, we've got this. AXA. Know you can. Policy terms and conditions apply. AXA Insurance DAC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Black November at Yisk with fantastic offers. Save up to 70% on our wide assortment within indoor furniture. For example, save up to 70% on selected dining or office chairs. Yisk.
Scandinavian sleeping and living.
Tá lán winning as an bríomhifig stadribh nó CSO chuile hort óla se bhailiú. Denimid rudí mar seo chomh. Tír is teanga, bás is batha, sláinte is táinte, óg is éasta. Denimid chomh freisin Halbhíocht is tionscalíocht, ilúntas idichas, tíhíocht is teilig, gan trocht freisin fionta. Tá ólas mar seo tábhachtach tus go muí tar cinnti móra náisiúnta Dar nóí ní éitach mud seo a dhéanamh gan sibh. An CSO, brathagaí oireann, tá muid ag bratharaibh se.
Hi, Paddy here at Shane Conley Cars in Donegal Town. Are you looking to upgrade your car? With Shane Conley Cars, you'll find makes and models for every budget. Great finance options, and we also accept trade-ins. Check out ShaneConleyCars.com or call in to us at Shane Conley Cars from Lonaher Road, Donegal Town.
Remember a loved one with a personalised memorial, acknowledgement or wallet cards from Bizprint using your choice of wording and background. Call in and speak to Catherine at Bizprint, Port Road, Letterkenny, or call 91 779 55.
Join Derek Ryan for a night of dancing in the Abbey Hotel, Donegal this Saturday, 23rd of November, with special guests Keelan Brown and Jason McCowell. That's Derek Ryan live in the Abbey Hotel, Donegal this Saturday, 23rd of November. Doors open at 9 p.m, pay at the door.
Okay, now we were talking there, of course, to our last guest, Professor William A. Thomas, who has with him a first-class relic of St. John Paul II, which is a part of his last haircut. It is here at Highland Radio for till about 11 o'clock. So if you are passing and want to call in and receive a blessing, feel free to do so. So that's here for the next 15 or 20 minutes. It's a first-class relic of Pope St. John Paul II, if that's something that might be important to you. Right, okay. Let's see. You are tuned to the 9 till noon show here on Highland Radio. Coming up after 11 o'clock, we will have John McAteer and Paddy Rooney for our second look at the run-in to the general elections. So stay tuned for that. Anil Anthony joins me on the programme now. Good morning to you, Anil.
Hi, Greg. Morning. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Okay. You're concerned, and I suppose you would hope that all politicians are concerned, I suppose, in the mouth of a general election about our health service, healthcare in general. And not just that, of course.
Yeah. Mainly, I want to highlight my personal experience with the challenges I face with the disability services here.
Okay, go ahead.
So I have a child with special needs, and in her case, she hasn't received any occupation therapy for over 1.5 years now. And if you take last decade, like 10 years time, he might have received 4 to 5 therapy sessions from HSC. So it is like it is equivalent to no support we are getting, And if you check the stats, over 50% of children with disabilities are not getting any essential services.
Anil, can I ask what age your daughter is?
Is 12.
Right, okay. So it's important for her, presumably, physical and educational development, that she is seen by these services.
Exactly, yeah. It's same with the speech and language as well.
Yeah.
So we are not getting any of those services. And I want to highlight also the school resource shortages here. So since I was not getting any services here in 2020, I decided to relocate to Dublin. That didn't work out. But at that time, I downloaded a list of schools around Dublin and nearby counties. I contacted 60 schools and applied around 20 to 30 schools and didn't secure a place. And last week, I read in newspaper that someone in the similar situation, 15 school, he applied and he didn't get a seat for his child.
Mm-hmm.
So it is showing that 2020 to 2024.
What does that mean come September, Anil, if you can't get a space in a special school? What happens with your daughter's education?
She has a school. I'm talking about the 2020 situation. She is studying with Little Angels now.
Beg your pardon.
I'm telling, like in 4 years' time, 2020 to 2024.
Understood.
Nothing has changed. People are in same situation.
I get you.
So.
You also had, Anil, with your daughter, an experience at Letterkenny University Hospital. And really what we're leading to in the net result of this is people's real-life experiences, the gaps that are there in terms of services, but the fact they're not really necessarily to the fore in party and individual manifestos. That's your argument. But before we get to that wider point, your experience with Letterkenny University Hospital as well.
Yeah, Edney, she waited for around 14 hours, to be moved to the ward, and that resulted in heavy internal bleeding, and luckily, she's okay now, but that should not be the case, So we cannot blame the staff as well. They don't have resource. There is something seriously, some action should be taken to address these issues.
But just in relation to the experience in the ED at Letterkenny University Hospital, the long wait in your daughter's case, thankfully she's okay now, but she worsened whilst waiting for treatment to a critical state over that period of time, which is very concerning. And obviously also to you, in a contact with us, Anil, you talked about the housing crisis. We see now average rents in Donegal just short of €1,200, much greater than the cost of renting, much greater than the cost of actually purchasing through a mortgage the same property if one were lucky enough to qualify for a mortgage. But the housing crisis, again, this one is to front and centre, it seems, in most parties' opinions. What's your views on it all?
The housing, actually, I raised the concern as I was seeing these stats in the newspapers, but what I'm highlighting is my personal experience.
Yes.
These are the things I personally faced, and as a common man, I think I want to share this experience with the audience. So the disability, coming back to the disability, right? We are just talking about the stats of eligible children. But there are a huge waiting list, 10,000 children waiting for more than 12 months just to be assessed. So
true, yeah.
just think of the gap there, So there is, and none of the parties have mentioned any solution for this in their manifestos. So there should be a clear plan on how they are going to implement it, and the time period, how in a time box period, how they're going to resolve it. None of them have mentioned. There is some mention about the carers allowance mean test, removing the carers allowance mean test, or another party has mentioned about hiring 800 therapists. Is it possible? Practically it is not possible, because if you see around the world, there is a huge shortage of SLT and OT therapists. We should look for a more proactive approach. Digitalization. Why we are not talking about digitalization? If you look for the other countries, Canada, they are going for virtual speech therapy. If you go to their website, you can see that no waiting list, immediate availability for assessment. So how they have managed to achieve that? UK, they have a lot of actions in place for the virtualization. Direct Health Australia, that is a government initiative. New Zealand, National Telehealth Service. Why we are not thinking about it? It's like it will help to triple the therapy availability here and eliminating barriers, right?
And Anil, I know the point you're making, it's a very valid point, of course, looking at international best practice and what we can employ here. But there are also great variances within the country, within different areas of the HSE, particularly in certain areas such as home care and what have you. So I mean, whatever about us there being big gaps between the likes of us and Canada, Australia, New Zealand, etc., there seems to also to be great gaps between services in the northwest and the rest of the country. So there are big problems, but also localized variances which are quite concerning.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say the parties should think of a proactive approach. It should be treated as an emergency situation and come up with a time-bound action. Just stating a number, this many number will be hired. That won't work,
Okay.
So there are options like we can integrate these services with the school for the special needs, So there are countries where the government fund the school to look for the occupation therapist or the therapy services themselves, because HSE, it is not available, we all know. So they can either locally look for the private available therapist or virtual or whatever the location they are, based on that. That should be a short-term plan. We can implement in 100-day time.
Okay.
So no action like that has been mentioned. In long-term, of course, we can look into integrating it with the HSE and hiring more people, getting more local jobs. So there is no clear plan,
Okay.
So that is really concerning.
All right, Anil, listen, we'll put some of your concerns during our debates to the various candidates, 20 of them. I think the overwhelming majority are going to engage in it, and I'll make sure to see what their views are in this area and the commitments and the timeframes. That's what it's all about. Thanks, Anil. That's an ill Anthony there. Do you agree or disagree? I know many families in his situation will agree, because I've had many interviews. We've had many interviews on this show in relation to that. Excuse me. Louise on Facebook says, as it relates to our caller whose 15-year-old child was referred for a private scan, but couldn't get it on her mother's medical card effectively. She could have got it at 16 with her own medical card. Louise on Facebook says it's the same if you take your child to a dentist, not the school dentist. You have to pay if under 16. Roshin says, fine ones to talk about repatriation. This is on X. Maybe the church should lead by example with what happened in the mother and baby's homes. Mary Jo Boner says our health system in Ireland is a disgrace. That's all I can say. And it has nothing to do with the floor staff and nurses. They are going over the bounds of duty with caring profession, really overstretched in their line of duty. It's very unfair. Thank you very much for that. Darren is responding to our conversation we had earlier on as it relates to inviting candidates to sign up to a protocol to, avoid discriminatory language, hateful language. Darren says, good morning, Greg. Will you remind your guest this is Ireland? He has no right to feel offended. Speech will always be offending to someone. It's always the people talking about racism who spread racism. I get where you're coming from, Darren, but at the end of the day as well, too, at the end of the day, we can get our points across without hurting each other, can't we? Without saying things that are incredibly hurtful. Which really is what we're talking about here. It doesn't mean you can't say stuff. You can have conversations. I think we talk about a lot of stuff on this show really quite respectfully, but get to the core points, the core issues that the core concerns people have. But it doesn't have to be through the use of scaremongering, hateful language, things like that. But anyway, we try our best. Quick break, and then we're going to talk about the driving test situation with Frank. Please hold, Frank.
Today's 9 till noon show is brought to you by Kiernan's Bistros at Letterkenny Retail Park. Our new second location is now open beside the new Dunn stores. Join us soon for good food and great coffee at Kiernan's Bistros, Letterkenny.
Financial scams are everywhere. Scammers are using increasingly sophisticated ways to trick you. Fight back by staying one step ahead. The next time you get an unexpected call, text, or email offering you a financial product or requesting your bank or credit card details, ask yourself, is this a scam? Always check you're dealing with a genuine firm before giving your personal information or transferring money. To find out how to beat the scammers, go to centralbank.ie/financial scams.
Me and the Minions are on a road trip. Yeah! To spread the word that Sky Full Fibre Broadband is now available in more homes across Ireland.
Voilà.
So, Stuart, where are we going? Okay, Letterkenny, then Lifford. Oh, and Bundoran too. Keep an eye out for 99.9% reliable Sky Full Fibre Broadband. Well, crank up the tunes, Kevin, and off we go. Search Sky Broadband today. Availability subject to location. See sky.ie/speeds.
Do you need a little extra help staying in your home? At Bluebird Care, we offer a wide variety of QMark-approved personalised home care services across Donegal. And our fully trained and committed staff will always meet your care needs with kindness, compassion and dignity. To get your personal home care assessment plan, visit bluebirdcare.ie or call our care team today on 07491 29562 and bring care home.
Welcome to Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms in Donegal Town. Discover affordable luxury with their bespoke fitted furniture solutions. With almost 30 years of serving Ireland and the Northwest, we're your trusted experts. Visit us Monday to Friday 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. and on Saturdays from 9 a.m. until 3:30 p.m. Book your free consultation today on 074 9725822 or visit cherrymore.ie. Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms, where affordability and luxury combine.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenney's. Find the perfect present for everyone on your list this festive season. Discover the joy of gifting and make Christmas magical with McElhenney's Ballybuffet. Visit us in-store or online at mcelhenneys.com.
Okay, so it's going to be cold and wet today. There is a yellow warning for snow and ice for Donegal. It's a moderate warning, okay, so we're not trying to scaremonger here. It's a moderate warning. Snowfall and communication... here we go. Snowfall accumulations possible this evening and overnight. Possible impacts include, of course, poor visibility, difficult travelling conditions. And it's valid until 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Kicks in at 7 p.m. This evening. It's been extended to Cavan, Donegal, Monaghan and Leitrim. I don't think Monaghan was in the first advisory, but there you go. Frank Doherty is a driving instructor. Frank, I appreciate your patience, but I suppose as a driving instructor, patience is very important to you. Thanks for your time today, Frank.
Good morning. I suppose it was one of the virtues of it, all right.
Frustrating for you, Frank, because, I mean, obviously, you're putting a great deal of time and effort into your students and building them up to that really important day it is for many. And I think the younger you are, often the more sort of a milestone and importance it feels. What do you think the solution to this situation is? Just to recap, we've got 4 testers, 3 in Letterkenny, 1 in Donegal Town, and Buncrana is covered by those 4 as well. But we've had in excess of 30 cancellations now over the last week or so. What can we be doing?
Well, I mean, that's statistics is shocking on that. My thinking on it would be, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it's not a good idea, but what about all the testers that has retired?
Yeah.
They're fully trained, they know their job inside out. Instead of waiting on to get new testers trained up, ask some of the retired ones to come back in and try and get the backlog pulled down as soon as possible.
So they've the skill set, the knowledge there. Maybe there needs to be just a quick assessment to see they sort of retain those skills, but get them back out there in the short term to try and clear the backlog.
Yeah, just till the backlog is gone,
Do you know any, Frank, that might be inclined to, or is this just?
Yeah, I would know a few. Yeah, all right.
Right, I mean that's the skill set. The skill set's there. Have any of your students been the victim of these cancellations, Frank?
Oh, of course, yes, surely. Yeah.
And what feedback do you get from them on it? Gutted, obviously.
So, obviously, they're very, very disappointed on it, and they're put back and they're waiting again, and then it's just a waiting game again, Then they're recalled, and then something else happens, and they're put back again.
Yeah.
It's really, the system really isn't working,
No, and what happens is, and we don't often talk about it, those that have completed their mandatory lessons now, they're at the back of a very long list. That list is actually even growing for them, because those with cancellations, they're going to try and accommodate them first. It keeps pushing, the newly on the list further and further back, Frank.
Yes. There was a thing way back years ago. There used to be that whenever they were starting off, they had their license for 6 months. Then on their first license, then on their second license, then they were allowed to drive.
Yeah.
The learner drivers. It was legal for them to drive, but then they had to do their test, and then if they failed their test, they had to go back to having someone on with them. I thought that was a fairly good idea, because it gives them a chance to get a bit of experience in that too,
All right, let's see what the listeners think. Frank, thank you very much indeed for that. That's Frank Doherty, a driving instructor, with some simple solutions, whether you agree or not, potential solutions to the ongoing lengthening lists. And I must say, by the way, we did mention that we had the first class relic of Pope St. John Paul II in Highland Radio, and since there's been a steady stream of people coming up for a blessing, which is, I don't know what I expected. I didn't expect as many people as has called in, which is interesting.
Good day start with a great morning. Start your day at Kernan's Bistros in Letterkenny Retail Park. If you're on the road or in the area, drop in for a great coffee and wholesome food. Kernan's Bistros, proud sponsors of today's 9 till noon show.
Crawford Tiles Black Friday Extravaganza. 10% off everything in store for the month of November. Back to wall toilets, €250. Wall and floor tiles, $13.99 a square yard. 60 by 60 porcelain tiles, $15.99 a square yard. Wood effect porcelain tiles, $13.99 a square yard. And 8mm laminate flooring, $9.99 a square yard. Crawford Tiles, Castle Finn. Call 91-43942.
Millionaire Raffle from the National Lottery is back. There's 1 millionaire guaranteed and over €6.3 million in cash prizes to be won. The draw is on New Year's Eve and tickets are limited to 600,000. Have you got yours? The National Lottery. It could be you. Gift responsibly.
my family, my business. I don't need any help from you people. Keep asking all these questions. Mum and me are fine. I'm gonna leave her alone for 5 minutes. She freaks out. I just don't know how to help her. Note said she's not coming back. I've got no family, no friends. Came over yesterday. Things are kind of normal again thanks to you listening to me every week. I'm feeling better, you know.
Bernardo's changed many children's stories, but we can't without your support. Please donate today at bernardos.ie, because childhood lasts a lifetime.
Enjoy real savings this Christmas at SuperValue. Like SuperValue Fresh Irish Strip Loin Steak, now save 33%. Scan your card or app and get Cadbury Milk Tray 360 gram, now €5. Club, 7-Up and Pepsi Selected Range, now 3 for €4. And Kettle Crisp Selected Range, now $1.50. Share the magic this Christmas with SuperValue. DRS applies.
Calling all electricians. Do you have a level 6 certificate in electrical engineering and at least 5 years of industry experience? Then ATU wants to hear from you. ATU is hiring technicians and lecturers to train electrical apprentices at our state-of-the-art facilities in Killybegs. If you are excited to share your knowledge with the next generation of electricians, join us at the Recruitment Information Evening at ATU Donegal's Killybegs campus on Monday 18th of November from 5 p.m. until 7:30 p.m. or visit atu.ie/jobs.
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to Noon Show on Highland Radio.
Okay, it's 11 o'clock. Let's get a news update, and it's over to Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. Guardia and Emergency Services have been at the scene of a workplace incident that occurred at a property in Letterkenny this morning at approximately 8 o'clock. It took place in an area between Windy Hall and Killylaston, we understand. Guardia say no further information is available at the moment. Their investigations are ongoing. The extent of injuries, if any, has not been confirmed. A status yellow snow ice warning has been issued for Donegal, Cavan and Leitrim. Met Éireann say snowfall accumulations are possible this evening and overnight, with the potential for poor visibility and difficult travelling conditions. The alert comes into effect from 7 o'clock this evening until 8 tomorrow morning. Taoiseach Micheál Martin says the altercation involving Fine Gael Senator John McGahan was clearly not a scuffle. Mr McGahan was acquitted of a criminal charge for his role in an incident outside a pub in 2018, but was found liable in a civil action. An image of the injuries suffered by farmer Breen White in the altercation were published in a national newspaper yesterday, with video footage of Mr McGahan circulating widely online. The Taoiseach, Simon Harris, continues to back his candidate in Louth. Donegal County Council, backed by the Department of Transport, is inviting local residents and other interested parties to participate in the third non-statutory public consultation for the Letterkenny Southern Network project. The project's intended to develop the transport network around the south of Letterkenny town, with a road development to provide connectivity from Letterkenny to West Donegal and reduce traffic congestion. Police in Derry are investigating the theft of an E4 Williams triaxle trailer from Campsie Industrial Estate on Friday evening last. The trailer, which has a dent under the brake light on the right hand side, is reported to have been seen in the area being towed by a white van. And searches from Americans looking to buy property in Ireland have soared by over 300% since Donald Trump was named President-elect of the US. Savills Ireland has released new research comparing its data to the week before Mr Trump's victory over Kamala Harris. Americans have been looking at properties in particular in Kerry and Cork. And we're back with news headlines again at 12 noon.
You missed a trick in there. Your two great loves. One, cruising.
Indeed.
And two, politics, right?
Uh-huh.
Probably not a love, but anyway, we do it, don't we? Did you hear about the cruise company that's offering a 4-year...
It's the same. It's Villa V. It's the same company that had the ship in Belfast that was in the media.
So if you don't want to live in a Trump America, you can get on this cruise trip. 17 grand, is it?
17 grand for 3 years, yeah.
No,
actually, no, it's more. It's going to be more.
170.
It'll be 170 grand. It'll be 170.
Anyway.
But there's also a monthly management fee as well. So you're paying 170 effectively. You're leasing. Well, it's the way Villa V works. You lease the cabin for 170, and then you pay. I think it's 1,500, 2,000 a month. Then as your charge for your food and your services.
Okay. It's. I wonder would they fill the cruise ship?
Well, it's nearly full already, so there's quite a few people on it right at the moment. They're off the African coast at the moment as we speak.
Right, okay. I should never have doubted you, Donald. in knowing about that. Okay, it is the 9 till noon show. We're heading into the last hour. Brendan Devaney, I'm guessing it's probably going to be one of the last DL debate previews for the year, but you never know with that man. Last year he ran it into close to January. And also we've got Paddy Rooney and John McAteer. We're going to be talking about elections once again, a week on from our last conversation. Stay right where you are.
At Uno Energy, we've already shaken up the energy market with the really simple offer, Ireland's cheapest electricity. Now we're shaking it up again with another simple offer, Ireland's cheapest electricity and gas. So the choice is simple. Get Ireland's cheapest dual fuel deal at unoenergy.ie and save up to €900 a year on your energy. With Uno Energy, you just know. Uno Energy discount fixed smart dual fuel rate EAB €2353. For T's and C's, rates and savings calculations, see unoenergy.ie. Suppliers' pricing may change.
All right, that funny story is going to have to wait. Brendan Devaney's in studio with me right now. We're previewing the DL debate. How many have you got for the rest of the year now? Because, I mean, obviously, in terms of on-the-pitch action, there's still some very important action, don't get me wrong.
Yes.
But we're heading towards Christmas now, a few short
weeks. That's it. Aye, listen, Greg, I suppose one of the few things I think I've any control of in life would be when the show finishes for the season.
Right, okay.
There's not too much I get to call the shots on, but yeah, on that one, we might look at next week. We have a couple of interviews lined up. Tomas O'Shea's coming on next week, actually. I was speaking to Darren Maloney, actually. He was to come on, but RT have this serious thing now about nobody doing anything
outside of
no, yeah, so obviously, Darren, you know you're not going
to get paid, yeah.
But he was saying it's such a hot issue up there now, and I tell you what, Greg, he is such a nice fella. You know, you see him on all the time.
Well, listen, not getting into the ins and outs of it, but I mean, you know, the more highly respected RTE people are heard in different places, the better it is for the...
Yeah, I mean, it was more about him, but the man being a bike, because I would see him at a lot of games there, Greg, and honestly, not only you meet different people, he's such a nice fella, and I just wanted to talk to him a wee bit about his own kind of life in it, and I enjoy them type of stories as well, because you often don't hear from those type of people in terms of their experiences and that, so... But listen, he had to pull out. But Tomas O'Shea's on. We're sussing out Jim McGuinness if we can get a hold of him, get a time with him. So it'd be a nice way to finish up the year. And of course, Downings are going for now what is an All Ireland semi-final.
Talk to me about the significance of. It's a relatively newly formed senior team, senior ladies. I mean, 7 or 8 years. Okay, how difficult is it to progress in a season to an All-Ireland semi-final? I mean, also championship in the bag now after their extra time win at the weekend, and now on to the last 4 in the country. I mean, it's no mean feat.
It's an amazing story. No more than Niamh Patrick Muff,
which we'll get to.
First time in it. So I suppose it's kind of uncharted waters. You know, you talk a lot about maybe from our level at St. Eunan's, you see a lot of the same teams, and you know, it looks like they need experience. A lot of teams, you know, if you look at teams going into that, they benefit from different years, and quite often that experience tells in further campaigns. But if you're at different levels there, obviously, you know, Niamh Patrick Muff will be up in the intermediate championship next year. So you've got different levels and things happening, and sometimes teams just go on a great run. But for Downings, as say, with McGrody and Curran in there at the helm, you know, they've serious experience. Obviously, Barney's brother Maxie has, you know, been the main ladies football guy around there, so the two lads have always worked with each other, so they bring through this group of players and to achieve what they achieved, no extra time victory, so it came right down to the wire, and to believe, Greg, you're 1 game now away from an All-Ireland final. I mean, that is
it's
I mean,
dreams,
Ulster, this is already a dream,
yeah.
But to think you could play on the biggest game of the season, you could potentially be down to the last 2 teams in Ireland. It's amazing.
Kilcock from Kildare that are next, and there's nothing to suggest that they can't go and do it. They seem to have the right mix of youth and experience, but they also have big players. You know, any team at any level, you need players that step up, and the whole team stepped up, but they had a couple of players that really stepped up on the day.
Yeah. See, when you see when it's low scoring game, like I suppose taking your opportunities and possession is key. And I suppose when you don't have teams that haven't played each other before, and you're trying to suss out where is a whole province at in terms of quality now. So you might look at certain counties and you might think they're a bit weaker than others in terms of football. But once you get out in that, it's very hard to tell, of course, at the different levels. Now you're into provincial level. So it's very hard to say what their opposition's like. And I know that the two lads will be sussing out videos and making calls to people and trying to find information on Kilcock.
I mean, one thing stood out for me too, from the Dannings performance as well. It was defensively they were excellent in that it was the type of game the ball was sort of in the opposition third for quite a lot of time, and to defend but not concede fouls, which would have just been 3 points effectively. It's not an easy trait, I would say. You mentioned Niamh Pádraig as well. They're through to the Ulster final. They're keeping their season going deep into the winter.
That's it. Well, listen, yeah, I suppose that type of commitment, it's not to be. I suppose we laugh about it. I think when you're on a 1 year run, it's absolutely brilliant and everything's put aside. But you can imagine, I think back to some of those great football teams. I mean, Aaron Kearns on with me tonight. His Cross McGlen team and his Armagh team were very successful. And I was just thinking, year in, year out, you are going into the depth of football. And I just think the commitment, say, of the family and, of course, the community and everybody to that. But, of course, they're proud of that. And that's what they did. You think sometimes, so it's really, there's a lot of football. If you play with a very successful county team now and club team, there's a lot of demands on you. And I'm sure the odd time, maybe if a club goes out early, probably thinking, we could have done with this wee break. But as it is, they don't mind first time in. And I say, it wasn't just that they won their semi-final. They absolutely destroyed College and the Armagh. So again, having seen Niamh Pádraig play, and mentioned this a few times, Greg, they were set up like a senior team in terms of their preparation, their fitness, and how they played the game. Of course, they were sweating on the fitness of Keelan McColgan and by Kevin Lynch up front. Now McColgan did come on sub, so hopefully he'll be back now. Whether Lynch has an ongoing injury, but he is such a brilliant player for them. So listen, they now are on the No More Than Downings. They're ready for a bit of history making. An Ulster final one would be absolutely phenomenal.
And it means so much. I think this is the what's so special about club football. The county stuff's brilliant, don't get me wrong, but these are your sisters, your cousins, your uncles, your cousins. You know what I'm on about. This is really right in the heart of your community. Yeah. And the joy it brings is just something else. Yeah.
So that was our first junior championship. So the role that they're on now, when they went into the Ulster, listen, again, it is more or less like let's have a go. It wasn't their aim at the start of the season, but it becomes your aim then once you won it. So the fact that they won their two games so well, particularly at the weekend's match there. So listen, myself and Brendan Kilcoyne and Oisin will be up bringing it all live.
Yes, excellent. And home tie for Dannings too, which is a great prize in and of itself. So you've got Aaron Kiernan on here, and there's an interesting conversation you're going to have in terms of new rules, changes to the rules for 2025. And interestingly too, because this is the conversation that's come up in relation to them. And, it's one thing doing it in Croke Park, it's another thing doing it in a windswept pitch in Ballantrae, and that's the implementation of the rules. So talk to me about that conversation you're going to have this evening.
Yeah, well, Mark Dorian and Enda McFeely, they are two national refs. There was a meeting in Abbottstown there last Monday just to go through the implementation of it, which is a huge side of it, as we know. We're drastically changing. I mean, I know the relics out there, the number 7, the 7 levels of heaven and what have you. So they've ticked 7 rules. Right now, to me, and it'll be interesting because the guys can give their view on this. I don't see why we need 7 rule changes.
Are they adapted now?
Adopted? They are coming in now. The club won't be facing it this year. It's not the following year.
Right.
So it's just county. So I know what you're saying. It would have been difficult, because you think about they're going to obviously have their linesmen, their fourth official, and their umpires, and they're all mic'd up. And that's going to be a huge side of implementing the 7 rules, which obviously people have to get used to.
It was very technical.
Very technical. Like, as I'm reading through them, and I was writing them out today and looking at them pre-talking to the refs, I just keep saying to myself, why?
Throw some up there. Where's the why?
Well, listen, I mean, the 1v1, the throw-in, I want to know why the refs thought that this was needed. I know there's a bit of a struggle on it. You could just put them a couple of yards apart so they're not jostling and throw it up. I think what happened here was we put some of our good GA minds, some of our best minds together, and there was too much. There was too much being thrown up. I mean, the GA's going on 140 odd years. You can't change our scoring for a start. And I mean, the mark thing isn't part of our game, so they've changed the mark now, so it has to be inside the 21. Again, just scrap it. It doesn't need to be there. And the 3 up scenario, right? Just make it 4 up. Keep the keeper inside the 45, And that's it. I don't think our game needed anything else. Let it play from there. So, the solo and go thing, like rugby you see there. So the guy's fouled, then it's up to him. He can take a tap and go. Now, automatically there, if the ref blows for a free, play will stop, because that's what we've been conditioned to do. So you could have a guy, so bang, he's gone, back of the net. Now, I don't think that's fair in defence, because you automatically are going to stop. So it's a wee bit like the mark scenario. Can you take the mark, can you not? Where does the defender mark then? Is he front, behind and all that? So I think there's too much of this creating.
In terms of solo and go, do you have to, say it's in an attacking position, does the defender have to be a certain distance from you?
No, it's just basically up to you.
Right.
So the ref blows for foul, I'm foul. I can tap and go like we see in rugby.
I got you.
Now, in rugby, you see, like, you've obviously, more often than not, there's obviously
a structure of defence.
Yeah, there's a structure of defence where that could be maybe the last two. So say the cornerback goes down to the fullback, he thinks then it's a foul, and next thing tapping his away, and it's in the back of the net. So listen, the scoring system is the biggest thing, right? The new arc. I mean, again, you're changing how our pitch is after all this time, and the 2 points thing, even that for a set piece, 45 and the 4 points potentially for a goal. Now this all still has to be completely ratified, Greg, but I just think that is so dangerous in terms of, say, a team's a point up and someone hits a shot. Now that arc, we used it already, it was up in Guardia there. It's not that far out. Like, it's a decent point, but it's definitely a very kickable area.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think if a team is a point up, you're automatically maybe going to drop a small bit. Next thing somebody gets in, strikes a ball, and you're out. You know what I mean?
Someone messaged in, I'm not sure how accurate, is that it's not actually fully decided that the club's deferred for a year. That's still
isn't that
in
right,
the offing.
right.
No,
Thank you.
No, I'm not sure about that. That's what
what I'd heard. That's what I was going to ask.
I'll read exactly what they say. That it's not correct yet. It hasn't been decided. The proposal is to use them across the board. But I think, given the complexities of it, I think it would make more sense to see it in action on the bigger scale before trying to implement it. Can you imagine trying to implement it at short notice?
It's just the amount of officials available, Greg, it probably would be the issue. And because there is 7 now, whether these all go through and that all happens, to me, as I say, there's far too much in that. We want, if you can't.
That's a complete reform of the game we're talking here, isn't it? This isn't one or two things to try and maybe make the games a little bit more open and what have you. I mean, this is quite a reform of the game as a whole.
See, if you have 3 up, then you're more likely going to get, say, that kind of platform player inside. So you are going to kick it inside anyway. Now he then, just with a diagonal kick, you would think it. I keep thinking Michael Murphy here straight away. So Michael Murphy could come out and you're not going to get around him. He's going to mark that quite easily. So it actually puts a lot of pressure on the defender.
Can I ask you a question, right? So just in relation to these rules as they are fully implemented, hypothetically, okay? So you have St. Eunan's into the final, right? Okay, experience, been on it forever. You've done low. They've had a great year, but they're not quite at the level St. Eunan's are at, okay? So those two go into the final. How do these rules make it a more open, fluid, maybe even more even game?
Well, obviously,
if they do.
Yeah. Well, listen, I think the scoring system is meant to kind of keep us on edge, so teams aren't defending leads and they're not sitting in because you can't get picked off. So what it's trying to do is just encourage end-to-end football.
But does that happen? So I shouldn't have used two teams as an example because I don't want to sort of say St. Eunan's are up here and Dunlow are down there. But my point is does this not mean that the better team, the more equipped team, the team with the better kickers or more county players or whatever, actually is advantaged?
Well,
so in other words, a good team, actually forget my example of those two teams, a good team, instead of being contained maybe and playing out defensively, could be 1-15 up in 20 minutes.
Well, you see...
And that game's over.
Well, the good team should be leading. Do you know what I mean? That's just sport.
No, I know about that, yes, but we could see games... We could see shutouts really early on in the game, no?
But, you see, the thing is, everybody has to, I suppose, deal with that. You got to deal with how do you make the best of what the scoring system is or what the rules
Well,
is?
that's what I'm asking you. Do you believe then a weaker team can adapt with the skill set and the players they have available to them? In other words, does this narrow the gap between the better teams and the weaker teams can set up in such a way, right, to grind out a victory? or does this widen the gap between the better team and the worst team?
That is a huge question, man. We would need a lot of time to go through all that.
Okay.
Because that's
you've got an
that's
hour.
massive. Me and you.
But
we
that's
need to do our own
fundamentally what it comes down to.
Well,
For
listen,
me, you know?
it's very hard to say.
Well,
'cause
why
you're gonna
else
have
are we introducing
You're
them?
going to have to see what they're trying to do is stop the possession-based extra men at the back type football. You build up slow, which everybody hates, and is mind-numbingly killing the game.
True.
So what they're trying to do, isn't it? I appreciate them trying to do it, Greg, but I just think leave 4 up, keep the keeper inside the 45, and play it from there. I think that quite simply that would have corrected so much that's wrong and would have scrapped other things. But what do I know?
You know quite a lot. That's why you have your own podcast. You're on everyone else's podcast, and people want your views. He's going to be getting the views as well as sticking his own in from Aaron Kernan. The lads are going to have a look back at the GAA stories of the week, as you can imagine. Armagh legend Aaron Kernan is going to look back at all the highlights from the Ulster club, plus fresh from the national referees meeting, as we've just mentioned, top officials Mark Dorian and Enda McFeely. They'll be on the show to discuss potential new rules for 2025 and critically the implementation of those rules. So you're going to have 2 whistleblowers there who know exactly how a game plays out, right, and how this will all be introduced. That's tonight after the 7 p.m. news, and of course it's a podcast available for you as soon as the broadcast is finished to listen to. I think you're looking forward to this one, aren't you?
Yeah, it should be good. Listen, I like having the refs on anyway, Greg. We should do it more often because we need to get their views and things.
But it's good that they speak.
And
you know, I know from this show,
from their side,
we always, even in this show, in non, sport, to actually get the people it affects is great. That these 2 lads are chatting to you, because it can be difficult to tease out subjects because you don't always have access to the key players, which you do tonight. So it's going to make for a very interesting show.
I have to ask them about the penalty in the county final as well. They might want to answer that. Barney Kern, joint manager.
Are you still going on about that penalty?
I'm still going on about it. No, I want.
You just don't let go.
It's everybody. In
I
the
would have
county
thought dancing around in front of 500 people would have cleansed your palate, but you're still going back to.
I still have the tights on. Hey, they're comfy them tights.
Do you know what? So warm. Well, I'm not going to lie. Well, actually, I'm not going to talk about this. All I'll say is, 16, 17 years of age, out working on a building site, freezing.
Yes.
You would do anything to keep warm.
Not long johns.
And I did
now,
not. I couldn't get long johns.
Long johns. Show me age.
You've just actually, you've just given me a memory there. I'm not sure if it's true or not. Hey, Bren, good luck to you. Thanks so much indeed for your time. Back after these.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
Sponsor of the 9 till Noon Show, Kernan's Diner, Newton Cunningham, with ample parking for buses and large groups, delicious breakfasts and hearty lunches. It's the ideal spot for a quick bite or leisurely meal.
At Volkswagen, we've really got to know the people of Ireland. 75 years of understanding what you love, how you live, who you are, and the life you lead. So we've brought you one much-loved car after another. From the original Beetle, the iconic Golf, to today's family-friendly Tiguan and our all-electric ID range. Knowing that whatever you choose, it's you who makes it your Volkswagen. Celebrating 75 years in Ireland. Order your new Volkswagen today.
For day-to-day healthcare needs, generations have trusted the experienced staff at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. From coughs and colds to aches and pains, from vitamin supplements to first aid essentials. McGee's have what you need when you need it, with a full prescription service available daily. McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny. For healthcare help and advice you can always trust.
Brian McCormick, Sports and Leisure, supporting you with the right footwear. Hoka Trainers. Have you tried the Hoka Sensation yet? Hoka provides comfort, support and shock absorption, which makes them a good choice for frequent runners and walkers, or anyone whose job requires standing for the majority of the day. For support or pronation, try the Arari 6. For maximum cushioning, try Hoka Bondi 8. Check in store or shop online at bmcsports.ie. Step into our safe-sized experience at Brian McCormick Sports.
If you need an eye test, look no further than Louis Walsh Opticians. Letterkenny's longest established opticians are delighted to welcome patients new and old to their state-of-the-art practice in the Courtyard Shopping Centre. Their latest technology includes a 3D OCT retinal camera, which assesses the health of your eyes in minutes. Private, medical card and PRSI patients welcome. Call 91 21000 to arrange your eye test.
Louis Walsh Opticians, Letterkenny. Your vision, our focus.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is...
The time's 23 minutes past 11. You're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show. We're going to be joined very shortly by Paddy Rooney and John McAteer for our latest, I suppose, look through what's happening in the general election locally and nationally. In fact, we might go to that now. We did speak to our two guests last Monday. As much changed since. We welcome back onto the show John McAteer of the Tyrconnell Tribune. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's great to see you again. And Paddy Rooney, our political analyst, also with us. Good morning, Paddy.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Fantastic.
Morning.
Paddy, I suppose I'll start with the national picture. I mean, it's not surprising to me that in the polls, for what they're worth, Sinn Féin are starting to gain a little. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael seem more interested, I suppose, in fighting amongst themselves, I could put it like that. But there's been no great moves so far in this campaign. When's it going to ignite?
Well, I'm not sure, but a lot of the listening or watching debates over the weekend on TV and radio, the general consensus is that the campaign has been very flat at the moment and it hasn't really ignited, and nobody can put their finger on that. But it may have something got to do with the fact that it's so far away. But of course, when I say that, we're between a third and a halfway into it. So people need to get into this very, very soon. I know now there's a lot of material coming on the radio and the TV about Christmas, so people have to compete with that. But I would say it's something got to do with the fact, Greg and John, that people out there feel that there is no choice on offer here, because the polls are showing that the next government is probably going to have a fair colouring of Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil in it, and they've either had a confidence and supply arrangement or a coalition arrangement for the last 8 years. The left is completely fragmented and has, I would say if you totted up all their figures, they might have 26% of the electorate, but you can't get any, there might be as many as 7 or 8 political parties there, and you can't get them to agree on anything. And then, of course, you have all of the goodies then that are being promised by all political parties across the board, and it's almost impossible to make sense of it all.
Okay.
So,
John John McAteer, the big movers really, I suppose, are independents, up 20%, as a grouping, as popular as all three parties thereabouts within the margin of error. So they don't have a load of money to promise. They don't have necessarily huge policy documents on everything from health to housing. Is that where the frustrated voter is seeking an alternative, John? Or do you read anything into that?
No, I don't read anything into that. There's a total disconnect here. People are not connecting with the politicians. They're not connecting with canvassers. But more than that, they're not contacting with the coalition partners in government. Sunday Times opinions poll yesterday showed Fine Gael on 23, Independents and others on 21, Fianna Fáil on 20 and Sinn Féin on 18, and the Social Democrats on 6, Labour and the Greens 4, and everybody else away below that. So what I see from that there is that coalition had 53% of the vote last time. They're down now at 47 this time. They're not going to form a government on that, I don't think. They're going to struggle to do that, given that they have to get up to 90 seats. There's a disconnect there because I think there's a bit of a shambolic campaign in the race to give away money. Simon Harris, every time he's handed a mobile phone, he's handing out more and more millions. Yesterday afternoon, he was at the Fine Gael launch in Tipperary, and he handed out billions, 2 billion each year for infrastructure, climate and nature, and 4 to 5 billion into Future Ireland Fund. And there was $1 billion for disability services. There was injection of 100 billion into capital projects. There was 40 billion for housing, and so on and so forth. 6,000 new Guardia, new Thornton Hall prison. That's back on the agenda again. It's been in mothballs for about 30 years. Then there's €1,000 for each newborn child, and then there's a certain category. There's more. So they're going to double the housing output.
Just in relation to that, you've said an awful lot of stuff there, but if you talk to people out in the street, they're not talking about that. They're talking about Simon Harris backing Senator John McGahern as an election candidate down in Louth. He's standing by him. And that is, if they do a poll in 2 or 3 days, that is going to damage Fine Gael. It's astonishing, isn't it? For all the stuff you mentioned, all the goodies, the thing that might actually adjust the opinion polls is something like this conversation as to whether or not Simon Harris should back the senator.
The goodies are not resonating at all. What is, as you say there, the issue down in Meath. Helen McEntee now has backed the Taoiseach on this one. This one is one to watch over the next couple of days. There are opinion polls coming out. Watch out for how this impacts on the Taoiseach's credibility and indeed on the wisdom of backing McGahern.
Yes, because of course, Paddy,
I just don't know.
Of course, Paddy, in relation to this, it's very fresh in people's minds, the questioning of Sinn Féin's handling of allegations against its members. This is a free opportunity for them to turn the tables directly onto Fine Gael, and I don't know what the right thing for Simon Harris and Fine Gael as a whole to do, even if what they are doing is correct. Once you are talking and once you are defending and once you are explaining, this is going to be dragged up a few times in this leaders' debate tonight, and I think it's critical as to how Simon Harris deals with it.
Absolutely, because Hugh O'Connell said a few of the journalists said there a couple of days ago. This is the third general election on the trot now that Fine Gael have started off with shoot themselves in the foot that was self-inflicted. It's something got to do with the fiscal space in 2016. I don't know what that was about. 20 then was about Charlie Flanagan and commemorating the RIC. And then we have Michael O'Leary last week. That seems to have gone away, and this is in the main now. I suppose that it's important to point out here that anyway, that John McGahern, it looks bad. It's a bad look, but he wasn't convicted in a criminal court. And
I'm sorry. Yeah, but it's very important that we apply the same rules, okay? Because the Sinn Féin senator didn't do anything illegal, was not convicted in a criminal court, and there was an awful lot of mileage made from that. And that defence for Sinn Féin wasn't accepted.
I was going to go on to say that because Conor Feehan and Ralph Regal have an article in the Irish Independent today about this, and they actually list a few people from other parties that are standing for the election. They have a criminal conviction behind it. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. It is a bad look. And the place where this is really going to be played out, I suppose, is in the constituency in County Louth, and let's see what the people view it. But it's a very, very bad look, because there is no doubt about it that if this had happened, if this was a Sinn Féin candidate, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael will be all over this like a rash. And, let's see whether it'll be like the Michael O'Leary thing. Will it go away? Or John said it might be like a snowball and it might turn into something here.
Yeah, I think it is the second for what my opinion is worth. John, I presume the Tyrconnell Tribune are doing, or I shouldn't presume actually, the opinion poll. Is that the case?
That process is ongoing this week.
When's it going to be released?
That'll be next week.
Excellent. So we have then also the TG Cahir poll, which is going to be released later this week. They're two different things. I mean, the Tyrconnell...
TG Cahir polls tomorrow night.
Now, they break it down into simple percentages, and I've jotted down as to how I think it's going to go. I don't think it can be made public because I might seem like I'm anti one thing or another, which I'm not. But I think this is going to throw up some surprises locally in terms of where the support is going within parties, and where maybe some people support the arse has fallen out of it. Or are you expecting... What are you expecting?
You'll get percentages. You will get percentages similar to Galway West last Thursday evening, was it? Fianna Fáil is down 10% there. Eamon O'Keefe is gone. Grania Shuaga is on 7%. Fianna Fáil's on, their two candidates are on 7% there, and they're in a pretty tight corner. Fine Gael set to gain a seat there. We'll wait and see what the TG Cahir poll does for Donegal tomorrow, but it'll be interesting. It was interesting the last time. Our poll was not that far from it, but it was a bit more detailed.
Yeah, it also it all depends on the methodology. Now, your sample rate at the Tyrconnell, I'm not just saying this because you're on, but the sample rate from the Tyrconnell poll is massive. which greatly narrows the margin of error. It doesn't then, obviously, we can't always go into the intricacies of second preferences and transfers. That's something we can discuss and debate after the fact. But it will be very interesting, Paddy, to see the raw percentages for Donegal candidates in this poll, I think.
It will. You started off your programme last week, Greg, by asking John and I to forecast about who was going to, who did we think was going to do well and who we think wasn't going to do well. And hey presto, didn't I come across a quotation by RTE political correspondent Micheál Lahan in the RTE app on Saturday, and he quoted the Roman philosopher Cicero. He says, "You can always spot a fool, for he is the man who will tell you that he knows who is going to win an election." So, can I formally withdraw the three names I gave you last week? Then, so I won't talk.
No,
it will be very interesting. I played a small role in that exercise the last time, and I hope to do it this time as well for the TT. And it's covered all over the place. But John's turns out to be very, very accurate, and I suppose it's about the comprehensive nature of it. But the other thing about it is because it's so close to the election. You might do a poll a month ago, and you might do one the day before the election. And the day before the one that's done the day before the election, if it's done properly, turns out to be very, very accurate. I mean, if you look at exit polls, for instance, and RT will be doing this at 10 o'clock on the 29th, they turn out to be really, really accurate, if people, are making their views known properly or truthfully.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. There was one poll doing the rounds earlier on. I don't know where it came from or whatever, and it showed certain percentages. But we'll see. It will be very, very accurate. There's 20 candidates running here. Every candidate will get some kind of a meaningful vote. Some people will get more than others. But transfers is going to be really, really interesting how they're going to shake out on this occasion.
In terms of the amount of candidates, John, now some are independents or non-party, as the returning officer describes them. Others are members of smaller parties. They are members of parties, but it's kind of maybe the independent vote that might go in their direction. How does that, how does that, if at all, alter the outcome of the election here? Can we suppose what percentage of the vote independents, maybe excluding Thomas Pringle, and those of smaller parties might get?
It's very difficult at this point, but generally speaking, the vast majority of independents don't save their deposits or don't come anywhere near it. Mary, well, she's a party woman. Mary T. Sweeney of Into could get 2,500 to 3,500 votes. That would be a high number there because she's fighting a lone battle up here in Donegal. She has a team behind her, but Into doesn't have that much traction up here. And indeed, they don't have an awful lot of traction in general elections other than their leader. And I would say that that's not going to change too much. I think there's going to be a couple of very interesting things to look for here. Who's going to replace Joe McHugh? The dynamic for that seat has changed down to southwest Donegal, and there's a bit of an input from Milford that should pick up a substantial vote. Now, we have no idea what that's going to be. Redress, Charles Ward for the 100% Redress Party. This is make or break time for them at this level of politics. They have a baseline of 7,500 there to work on. They're canvassing pretty hard, and they're out and about all over the place. It's always going to be an uphill battle for a new party because you're against the might of Sinn Féin and Fianna Fáil. Sinn Féin is very, very busy on the ground, but Fianna Fáil has a campaign ongoing that I've never seen before. You think their very lives depend on it. There's some reason behind that. There's two things going on there. They're either looking for 2 seats, or else they're trying to conceal the fact that they're in danger. Not too sure which of them is right. I'm not getting a great word back on the ground from any of the main parties, quite honestly. People are just disconnected with politics. There's a sort of malaise set in there that people just are not happy. They don't feel that politics is connecting with them. It's not representative of them. There's a lot of flack there about the fact that those big spends in the budget were not targeted, that those who are in poverty are still in poverty and will be.
Yeah, but does that not mean then, I'll ask you and then I'll ask Paddy, does that not mean then when we have such an emotive topic that affects so many people as defective concrete blocks, that in a otherwise kind of a grey campaign, when there's something that's so emotive and touches so many people, that it becomes maybe one of the, it is then one of the big swings and one of the things that gets people out to actually vote? Because this election will be won by people who vote. It won't be influenced by those that don't vote.
The probable outcome is that it may be affected by those who don't vote, because there's a lot of evidence out there of people just registering their protest by not voting at all. I've got that more in this election campaign in the last 10 days than I've ever got before. Now it's up to the politicians and their canvassers to get in on those doorsteps and convince people, first of all, to get out and vote, and secondly, to support their particular brand of politics. But we're not getting any of that there. We're not getting that. In real terms, the Mica Redress Party should be flying, given the amount of Mica issues that are in the whole county of Donegal. It doesn't work that way. There's a party loyalty there. There's a tradition there, and it's still there very strongly. Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, and nowadays Sinn Féin are going to be pretty strong. I see them getting their 2 seats without any big bother.
Sinn Féin. Okay, Paddy Rooney, what's your view?
Well, I suppose in reference to the Charles Ward and his team, I mean, and suppose everybody else in Donegal knows somebody. If they don't live in a house that's got Mica, they know somebody, or they know people that do live in a house with Mica. And all of the people that are involved, or most of them anyway, are actually reluctant politicians. They don't want to be here. The only reason they're in this gig is because they have to be, because they feel that they're not getting proper representation from the other parties, whatever kind of flags the other parties are saying around them. But given the fact that the independents are 21% nationally, that's a fifth of the total poll. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to play out here or whatever, but one of the things, I suppose, because the quota is going to be very high, John made reference to it last week, either we'll say one of the Sinn Féin candidates will probably top over that. It's likely then that nobody else will. So not alone your first preference vote, but it's going to be very, very important then that you're attractive to everybody else for second preferences and stuff like that. And I think that's one area that Charles Ward could have a trump card over everybody else. He could turn out to be everybody else's second favourite candidate, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Which might give him a little bit of an edge there.
Just in terms of what's changed since last week, John, it's just a sense that you get from a Fine Gael perspective, and this is not an opinion, it's just an observation, that John McNulty's stock seems to be rising, not just out of his heartland, so to speak, that he's trying to get traction with Fine Gael voters far outside Ardra, for an example, and also to the impact on Noel Jordan. I understand he's having a very successful campaign there down in and around Donegal Town, Mount Charles, Killybegs, etc. And I just wonder, is he going to be drawing? This has made me wonder for Thomas Pringle's chances here, because you have another very strong candidate in that area who may not get over the line himself, but you imagine a lot of his second preferences are going to be heading north to Inishowen or west to the west. So those are just a couple of variables that seem to have emerged since our last conversation last week. I don't know if either of the two of you have any view on that.
John McNulty has been running very, very strongly. The constituency is now divided. Nicky Bradley has the Milford, Letterkenny and the Inishowen area, and that's a fairly substantial area. John McNulty has the rest of the constituency, but he had his canvassing done out in this part of the world.
On paper,
yeah. A lot will go back. We have been back here before. A lot will depend not on John McNulty because he's a good candidate. It will depend on the structure that he has behind him in the constituency executive and how they get out there and get that canvass done. Because realistically, no candidate will get half of their area canvassed, given the shortage of the very short evenings and very long nights when people don't want to see you after 8 o'clock in the evening. Can Fine Gael win back that vote that they lost in the local elections? Of course, Fianna Fáil lost 4,000 votes as well, and that they're in a much stronger position. They're now at 17,000 votes. Fine Gael is about 3,500 votes short of a quota. Fianna Fáil is that amount over the quota. So there's a vast difference there. Sinn Féin's Noel Jordan, your reference there, you see, there are issues there that if Patrick McLaughlin and Pearse Doherty can hold their 34, almost 35,000 votes, that's 45%. If they can hold that, and Noel Jordan can get up to that 4 or 5% area, well then they'll be looking at the third seat. I'm not too sure if that's a runner.
Just in relation to, though, the consequences for the likes of Thomas Pringle with Noel Jordan running in his area, does that... Because I say some national speculation is that the 100% redress might be the Achilles heel for Thomas Pringle. I don't see it like that at all myself personally, but just literally because of the geographical nature of the county. But if Pringle were to miss out, is it because of Noel Jordan doing well and transferring up the county, or what?
Pringle would have to increase his vote very, very substantially because he got almost 3,000, 2,800 and whatever from Sinn Féin the last time, and it gave him that third seat. Now, Noel Jordan's participation there is expected to diminish Pringle's total vote of transfers. They're all crowded into a very, very... It's a small area, Donegal southwest, given that there's 9,000 voters south of Lahey and Sligo Leitrim. John McNulty's in Kilcar, and you're going to have two other candidates in Noel Jordan and Mount Charles. Claudia Kennedy is in there with the vote as well because she's from that Donegal, even though she's from further south than Lahey. But she'll pick up a vote there as well. We haven't spoken about her for Fianna Fáil. We don't know what her vote's going to be, but
I think she might resonate more in the east of the county, and because
it'll have an impact, you know.
Yeah, of course, Paddy.
Well, I was just going to make the point John sort of touched on it there. Anyway, there's literally two constituencies in this constituency, and I have a sense anyway that the southwest part of it, the old Donegal southwest, it's actually top loaded with the heavy players here. I'm not diminishing all the other candidates in it, but Pearse Doherty is in that area. He's going to be a contender. Pat the Cope is in that area. He's going to be a contender. Thomas Pringle is a sitting TD in that area. You've mentioned John McNulty, that he has prominence now that he's the prominent Fine Gael candidate in it. Noel Jordan is there. So then when you move up, we'll say, for instance, to Donegal North East, then you have Charlie McConlogue and you have Patrick McLaughlin sitting TDs. Now, not all of the 5 TDs are going to come from the one area. So Donegal Southwest is not going to have them all. So just by the very fate of geography here, it's going to scatter the seats around. I mean, there is a concentration of players already in the Southwest. In principle, a lot of their votes should go to each other. Not all of them, but some of them. So they will either damage each other or they will help each other. We'll have to see how that plays out.
Yeah, indeed. I just think with the annexed Donegal, and just being from that area, I don't know if people vote sort of go, right, I'm going to just vote local. I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong in that. I don't know.
There's a mix.
It just doesn't feel like that down there for me.
There's a big mix in that. Pat the Cope, we haven't mentioned him. Pat the Cope has a decent campaign on the road, a very good campaign. He had a Coyle Cantor meeting in Gartahork last Tuesday night, and there was 50 people there, and a good buzz of excitement. And other parishes would be lucky to get half that in number. Now, how he impacts beyond that, that remains to be seen. But he has a good campaign going, and he has put a lot of work on the ground over the last 4 years. So, is he going to be in there in the final shake-up for that last seat? I suspect that he could easily be. So could Thomas Pringle, and so could Charles Ward. You know, like it's like that there. John McNulty. Not so sure that all of them are going to be in that shake-up, you know.
Yes, but I mean, who are Fine Gael people? Fine Gael has huge support in Donegal. Who are they going to vote for if it's not for Nicky Bradley or John McNulty?
They don't have huge support in Donegal.
They have enough for one TD, surely.
They have decent support in Donegal. Joe McHugh managed to get over 8,000 votes the last time as a senior government minister, and Martin Harley done very, very well to get over 3,000, so they're short of 12,000 votes. So they have 12,000 votes. Sinn Féin has 34,500 votes. Fianna Fáil has 17,500 votes. So, like, it's stacked against them in a way, you know, that if Fianna Fáil is on any kind of a decent roll, they could easily take in 2 candidates, and like that's obviously their ambition.
All right,
and I'm not too sure. I'm not sure how realistic that is.
A caller says, listener in Gweedore, is there a website to go and see who is standing in the Donegal constituency? Yes, there is. It's called highlandradio.com, and you can click into the election folder there.
No.
So yes, come back, please, Paddy.
So it's not, about people voting locally and so on and so forth. Thomas Pringle got 2 very good lifts the last time. One was from the surplus of Pierce Doherty, and the other one, surprise, was the distribution of Martin Harley's votes. Okay.
Yeah.
So Martin's from up, or he has family connections up there. So that was a case now of votes transferring from Fine Gael over to Thomas Pringle's
Yeah,
team.
no, you're right. I get you.
Ideologically, they are very, very different. But you see how people were sort of looking after their own.
Yeah, for sure. And I was only going. I have no. You've produced evidence there. I was just sort of my feel. So, listen, we're not going to play games here. But has either of the two of you, in terms of who you are confident might get elected, locked in for you, and how many seats outside of what you might be certain of are up for grabs? I mean, John, we've got as far as you seem convinced Padraig McLaughlin and Pierce Doherty are going to be okay, because you're looking at the math, but also you've got your ear to the ground. Can you go beyond that?
Charlie McConlogue definitely will be okay. He has very, very big canvas support on the ground, and he's pretty well got out on the canvas as well. I would have to say that he's working extremely hard, and he's just attending everything that moves, and he could substantially improve on his vote of the last time. But depending on what the sentiment is out there in the public, he could lose. He could lose a handful of votes. I don't think he's going to lose an awful lot, because a senior government minister for 4.5 years does mean something. It has to mean something, because you're spreading money around the place.
So that's 3. After that, have you any?
After that, then I think all the other seats are at play.
Up for grabs. Okay.
Thomas Pringle would be my favourite for the 4th seat, because let's look at it realistically. Thomas Pringle is well got across the county. He's a councillor on 2 occasions. He's been a TD in 2011, 16 and 20, and he has done extremely well. He's never too far out of the news, and he has a highly organised office in Killybegs.
Yeah, and he's got a good network throughout the county.
He has a huge network throughout the county. It just remains to be seen how that reacts to him on the day.
And Paddy, any? I mean, there's nothing certain, and you've got that quote in your back pocket to pull out. But I'm just wondering if
I said the last.
In fairness, this is a bit of a game, right? We don't know, and no reputations are at stake here. But I just wonder if your lineup, are you any further confidence in it?
I'd say there's sort of consensus anyway that Pierce Doherty is going to do very well again, and he will be elected. Nobody likes that moniker on him, but he will be elected. John has an interesting point about Charlie McConlogue, but he's going to be one to watch here. He lost 4,500 votes from the last 2 elections ago to the last one, and he cannot afford to lose any more, because once the count begins to play out here, where is Charlie McConlogue going to get transferred? He needs to get it, most of it, on the first count. And can he do that with Micah at playing in a show? We'll see. Being a minister, as John said, it is important, and it'll give him certain kudos, and it'll give him a certain lift. But I suspect he's going to need all of it.
Yeah, he's definitely leaving no stone unturned. And obviously they know more than we do at this point. They've probably done some sampling themselves. Fianna Fáil is always good at doing sampling. They're at it for a long, long time. Fine Gael has been doing that over the years, but I don't think that's happening all that much now. Sinn Féin are continually sampling. They put in a 3rd candidate there for a reason, and it's to stop votes drifting away from them. In that part of Donegal, Killybegs, right up into Kilcar, Carrick and down into Glencolmkill. There's a big vote up there, and also in the Donegal town area itself. Now, they weren't going to run 3 candidates, and the female, if they were going to run 3 earlier on, they would have thought of the name of Cora Harvey, should she be available. I don't know if that was right or not, but she would have been a great candidate sitting there in the Finn Valley.
Okay.
She would definitely be in the running for a 3rd seat. Noel Jordan is a bit far south. He's going to have to depend on the same ground as his colleagues up there, right out along the Atlantic from Donegal town up into Glencolmkill. It's a big ask, but a lot's going to depend on how Doherty and McLaughlin hold up their vote.
Okay, it's all very fascinating. We'll reconvene. John McAteer, editor of the Tyrconnell Tribune newspaper. Thank you very much indeed. Paddy Rooney, always a pleasure to chat to you really soon. And that was a second look at what's happening. We did one last week. We'll do one again next week, and that's going to be available for you to listen as a podcast on our website really soon.
The 9 till noon show brought to you by Kernan's Diner, Newton Cunningham. Try our famous trucker stop breakfast. Fresh fish and chips or gourmet burgers. Delicious meals and welcoming service await you at Kernan's.
GiveBlood.ie know we can count on you, our community of blood donors, to be there for others in their hour of need. Blood donors from Dunlow and Bunbeg should attend the clinic in the Waterfront Hotel in Dunlow on Tuesday 19th of November, and donors from Ballybofey should attend the clinic in Jackson's Hotel in Ballybofey on Wednesday 20th and Thursday 21st. Making an appointment is recommended, so call 1-800-731-137 or visit our website to book your time. New donors are vital. Visit giveblood.ie to check eligibility and clinic details, because we count on you.
Thinking of changing your floors? Why not see what Floor at Letterkenny has to offer? Floor at have a large selection of solid, semi-solid and laminate click vinyl wood flooring, together with a fantastic choice of parquet, herringbone flooring, all at incredible value. Don't delay. Call Floor at today on 087 161 7008.
Make it a Christmas party to remember at Dunnes Stores, with 20% off a fantastic range of wine and champagne, and mix and match over 100 party food options. Whether you want crispy tempura prawns, elf bao buns, or a selection of indulgent cheeses, whatever you want from your Christmas shop, you'll find it in our aisles, fridges and freezers. Plus, you can save again at the till with a 10/50 grocery voucher. Make Christmas for everyone with Dunnes Stores. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used in the next grocery shop of €50 or more. Voucher excludes alcohol. Please drink sensibly.
New season of fabrics have arrived in store at Fabric World Maydown. On trend and in stock, we have all the fabrics you need. Thousands of curtains, upholstery and craft fabrics at incredible stock prices. Call in for your free curtain design and quotation at Fabric World Derry. Great Euro rates for all our Euro customers.
Be the first to test drive the brand new Nissan Qashqai at iMotors. Low finance rates and up to €4,000 available on trade-in boosters. iMotors are offering any customer who orders before December 23rd the chance to win €10,000. Visit our showroom today.
iMotors, fearless generation.
Join us for a festive evening at Homeland Letterkenny on Thursday 21st of November. Save 20% on all Christmas decor, with late night opening until 8 p.m. Festive music, refreshments and more. For more information, visit homeland.ie.
If you've got a wedding, prom or other special occasion coming up, there's a great offer right now at Watson Menswear in Letterkenny. Get a 3-piece suit, shirt, tie and shoes for just €299. Yes, suited from top to toe for an amazing €299. Watson Menswear are open 7 days a week on Main Street, Letterkenny, and online at watsonmenswear.com. The Christmas Club is also now open, and a small deposit will secure any item.
Today's 9 till noon show is brought to you by Kernan's Bistros at Letterkenny Retail Park. Our new second location is now open beside the new Dunnes Stores. Join us soon for good food and great coffee at Kernan's Bistros, Letterkenny.
Hiya, Viv. Cén chuí bhfuil de chrathraigh déanamh?
Tá sé fós a goma, dógad an é. Tá blianta fada dobradí amach ribh.
Well, is go grabh an tochaid a hán?
Nílas.
Tá sé sin uafásach.
Tá sagam. Heb é céirt faoin na hobrádí. Ní hiúca sé bhaid sin go brach.
Nóbig deis ag tinna tosú, mar na rasóisi ní stopitad í. Tá tilla ólis le fáil fireireland.ie. Teachtacht ó Rialtas na Héireann.
With MasterCard Priceless Experiences, the possibilities are endless. You could be front row, screaming every lyric. Or lost for words at the final act. Shh, sorry. Discovering new destinations. Or a land of mouth-watering flavours. So if you're a MasterCard cardholder, register at priceless.com to unlock a world of priceless experiences. From exclusive dining events to historic tours. One place, endless possibilities. Priceless.
Le níosmó bailí ar fud na tíre, so lá rion do Hervís bus nasc le líonra úmpar 5 TFI níos léhanna. So bhád suas le trucha faoin géad nuair a úsáidan tú do charta líb TFI. Le haid tuile eolais faoi sléite agus amchláir, túr cuairt ar transportforireland.ie. Is sinne Transport for Ireland. Is muid úmpar dit.
Get ready for a night of great music at the Highland Radio Christmas Concert on Monday the 9th of December at the Mount Errigal Hotel in Letterkenny. Join us with an incredible lineup of Mike Denver and his band, John McNichol, Jim